The following episode contains spoilers, and be sure to follow our podcast on these available platforms.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Nocturnal Movie Club. We are back for season three. I am joined by my esteemed co-host, Jake, Ethan, Josh. What's going on? Happy 2024.
Happy
Happy 2024.
2024. Thank God that
2024.
year is over.
Why was 2023 not a good year for the movies?
Absolutely not. Any goodwill that came from 2023, you really had to dig deep into the independent market for, because mainstream, it was a joke.
I
Oh
think
my God.
like last minute, like it came like this last quarter, like everyone started to put out like their strongest stuff
Because it's
because
Oscar
it got
season.
yeah, it's
hmm
obviously so it got good this last quarter, but I'm with you on like up until then it's been kind of lackluster.
Here's what I'm looking forward to, though, that's carrying over in 2023. With the strikes now being over, thank God. And when we get to the Oscar season and all the award seasons, and you see the actors and writers having to stare down at the producers that were keeping them from working all year, the palpable frustration and awkwardness will be fun to watch.
I mean,
I'm
everyone's gonna
excited for
keep it
that too.
professional.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they'll be professional, but it'll be interesting to read in between the lines when everyone's giving their thankses and thank yous on stage and being like, "Yeah, y'all kept me out of work for over a year, well, for around a year."
Well, here's the thing. I do think there will be like somewhat of a level of professionalism, but I feel like with each year, people are starting to look less and less professional when talking about
Mm-hmm.
their personal grievances.
Exactly, and you know what? Like, if any writer goes up and says something that trash talks the Producers Guild, you know what? More power to them. They deserve it after everything they've been put through. Like the amount of any sort of goodwill with any of producer heads and studio heads after these strikes just went right out the window.
Yeah, I
I'm
agree. I
excited to
mean, I don't
see
know if you
what we
guys have
get for
seen
sure.
the press tour for the Color Purple, but Taraji P. Henson's been like, really vocal about like the pay gap in between. You think an actor is getting $5 million for a movie, but then by the time we all get paychecks, so
Mm-hmm.
half that paycheck goes to the government, and then on top of that, then you have to pay your team, you have to pay your agent, your manager, your stylist, your hair and
Mm-hmm.
makeup. It's just like there's like no money left behind. So it's really interesting that people I think are being like more honest about like the pay disparity, and like especially within Hollywood, we think everyone is just like rich from all levels, and it's just like not the case.
Mm-hmm. And what I'm hoping for is that with writers and actors getting more financial security and more support, it'll also translate to more interesting projects. Because with that better financing, it means, oh, now we got the opportunity to take some risks, to have some stability, to flesh out our ideas. I mean, it must be, I can't imagine how intense it must be to write something and having to do a bunch of side jobs just so you could pay rent, like how that just affects your writing.
And I think also like the fact that they got this break is going to play hugely into that. I saw so many tweets from people saying that with this time off, I can actually think about stories I want to tell and not just taking jobs to write stories I have to tell.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're going to see a lot of good creative stories come out of that because right now creativity is kind of bone dry in Hollywood.
Mm.
The one thing I didn't see them actually fix on the series front is the one of the big complaints the writers had that I agreed with is they don't actually get the promotions based off of going from writer to like a junior producer getting involved in the
Mm-hmm.
production of the show. They don't actually get that progression. They just stay on as like an ad hoc freelance writer throughout the whole process and they don't actually get that career growth.
Yeah.
And they say that affected the development of shows in the long term, which I can see. What shows are going past 3 seasons these days? Like none. That I don't know if they're going to solve, and that is a huge issue. But optimistic on the creativity going up.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I agree. I mean, very few ideas out of Hollywood that are original. We all are complaining. We're all like done with sequels. We're all done with like the re- let's do it again. Like here we go. Like we're getting Mean Girls and like, and even though I'm sure it'll be great, even the Color Purple, like we just want fresh ideas, something different, and we're just getting so little of that. Hopefully, I think that will change with like the writers having a break and just like time to like actually think about what they want to do.
It seems like the big winners, like just purely box office wise, that are like be getting the most success are the ones with the most amount of auteur originality and vision in them. I mean, your Barbie, Oppenheimer, Spider-Verse, those films, I mean, even the ones based on IPs, there is a distinct artistic vision, regardless of if you like the movie or not. You can't deny the fact that there is a directorial vision with those films. And that's what it seems
Right.
like audiences are just wanting more. I mean, the IP, like moving away from IP, I think will take a lot of time. It's not going to be 2024. It's going to be generations, maybe. But it's honestly like the type, like basically, you're going to have to be more creative with an IP than just adapting it.
And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, we want IP still. We still want IP, but we just like that's all we're getting. I think is
Mm-hmm.
the problem. It's like we want IP and we want original ideas. I think
Well, I almost slightly
uh,
disagree with that. I do think that there needs to be more than just adapting, but one of the problems I think that is some films are getting a little too complicated with their storytelling, so the escapism is not really there like it used to be. So I think
Mm-hmm.
both both approaches need to at least learn to coexist.
Mm-hmm.
100%. I mean, like what Josh was saying with Barbie and Oppenheimer, it's like great. It's a standalone movie. They may or may not make another one. Well, they can't make another Oppenheimer, but like it's great to
Well,
have
I mean,
those.
we
I mean,
didn't see him die at the end.
are you telling me that Godzilla minus one isn't the sequel to these are the sequel to
Ooh,
Oppenheimer we all needed and wanted?
I love that. I
They
love
must
that.
have cut out the post-credit scene, like the other post-credit scene.
exactly. No, I
I
don't
think
think they should
honestly,
touch Barbie or Oppenheimer. I think Barbie needs to be a standalone. I think
I
they need
agree.
to.
Yeah.
I think they need to leave it alone. I think Margot is smart enough to like, especially as a producer, because she's really killing it. I think, and she's in her producer bag, and I love that. I think she understands that it needs to be a standalone, unless it's something so smart, and it's so rare that we ever get like a sequel that's better than the original. Unless her and Greta can come up with something like super superb that's like makes perfect sense, then do it. But unless they both come to that conclusion that they have the perfect sequel, then they should
I
not
mean,
touch it.
I would trust them. I don't want a sequel to Barbie. I loved Barbie. I thought it was one of the best films of the year. One of my favorites of the year. I really enjoyed it. I don't want a sequel, so I think the ending that it had was the perfect closure for Barbie's story. But would I trust Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie if they had the green light to do a sequel? Yeah, I would. I don't think I would trust anybody else. Like
So far, they've
those.
had a pretty good track record. So
Mhm.
I
it's
do
true.
think that they would be very cautious in approaching a sequel if they had to.
Yeah,
I
and only
think
if they
closely we're
have
gonna
to.
right. I think the closer we're gonna come to sequels, I think Mattel or whatever the toy company behind them is wants to do like a whole bunch of toy-based movies.
Oh God.
Uh,
Oh,
so like a toy universe, which is come on, that's so stupid.
Yeah.
the
So
toy
Uh,
verse.
so what else did Mattel do besides Barbie, like in terms of toys?
I mean, they kind of
Polly
Well, yeah,
started
Pocket.
because
because
you,
they
you have Nintendo's doing there because they have like the success of Super Mario Brothers, which made over $1 billion this year.
Oh
So
Financial
yeah.
success we're talking about in terms of critical
yeah,
success.
ooh,
I'm
but
not so sure.
I
Wait,
want
you
to
mean
keep the video game stuff out because honestly, in my opinion, 2023 was the year of video games. It was easily the strongest year in recent memory and arguably one of the strongest years of all time. And movies were very disappointing to me overall.
Yeah.
But uh but
So
yeah,
I
you
have a
got
question.
studios now coming in and Nintendo. But yeah, sorry, Jake.
No, I was just going to ask. So, in regards to how we feel about 2023, I think we all uniformly agree that it was pretty disappointing. What would you say, like, what would you point to as being one of the main factors of why this year was so disappointing?
I think we're just noticing the glut of Hollywood coming down. Like we're just seeing what happens when basically with like what I kind of think is with the Marvel films and all the IP films and the Disney films and franchises either coming to an end or nearing their end or the DCEU like shutting
Or
its
going
doors.
past their expiration date?
We're going past expiration date. We're kind of seeing audiences lose interest in these franchises, and it's revealing just how much of Hollywood was being sustained by the franchises, rather than saying like a director's work or an ideology. It's just keep cranking out this brand, keep cranking out this brand. And when the brand's not working, they're scrambling to find more. Like I did find a lot of great films this year. It wasn't as disappointing a year for me to just find films that I love. I found quite a few I loved and some are among my favorites now. But I think it's showing that Hollywood just needs to rework what types of projects they need to invest in. And that's just going to happen every decade or so, whether it was like the new Hollywood era or the 80s or just like the 80s Simpson and Bruckheimer trends and like the indie boom of the 90s. There's always going to be a fall of some kind before something new gets picked back up. Like I have faith in 2024 and I have faith that things will get better. But I think we're seeing just how fragile a lot of these franchises are.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's that, but also like Hollywood's changed, right? We have this new element called streaming, which has just changed the whole landscape of just how Hollywood works. So you can't just put out when you put out a film now, it has to be an event. Like what
Mm-hmm.
Barbie and Oppenheimer did, they created a must-see thing where like you have to create event programming. So it's when we
Yeah.
go spend this money to go to the theater because it's not expensive and it is such great content that we get at home and we've all elevated our at-home systems where like we don't feel the need to go to the theater so much. But I think when you are asking people to come to the theater, you have to make it event worthy.
Yeah,
You
but
know, like
Yeah.
that's almost emblematic of the problem because not every film can be an event. Like Barbie
but
was.
it's also just not the theater too. I think it's also not just not the movies; it's also the theater experience as
Mm-hmm.
well. I think that played a big part of it with AMC and the Regals, and I think
Mm-hmm.
they just are not making the experience worthwhile. Where people like they'll wait till it comes at home.
I know. And maybe that's just a cultural problem because I think part of the reason it's getting so much harder for people to even make films is they feel like they need to add all these bells and whistles and make it a whole event so people come in rather than just here's a movie, great writer, great director, interesting script. You put it in a few theaters and then the ticket sales make the money so that way you make your profit. It's just not like that anymore.
Well,
And
because there was a lot of great films that came out this year that
yeah.
didn't do well box office wise, and it's just like this is a great film, this is a great story.
Mm-hmm.
You look at even like on an IP level, you had I don't know which number of Mission Impossible it was, but
7.
Mission
Yeah. And it was a
Seven,
great movie.
it was a great movie. It
That-
didn't do well.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't
I,
do
I
well,
think
and
Yeah, I
it's
think
just
that
I,
might
like
have just been
by all
because of
means.
I think that was because of Barbenheimer though, like because it was like I think a couple weeks after Barbenheimer
yeah,
or
exactly
Yeah.
right. It was just bad timing, but honestly, like, yeah, we can't undermine the impact of streaming. I've been saying this for a long time. Streaming has kind of killed our idea of what Hollywood
Yeah.
used to be, and we do have
Mm.
to get used to it. Because you're right, like, there's movies that, like, yeah, these are great movies, but are no one going to see them? Because they're going to think it's probably going to be on Netflix or HBO in like 2 months. Let me just catch it there because I'm already paying for that. Why pay to see it twice?
Mm-hmm.
And I hate that. It's not great because you're really switching the gears from we need to get people to see these movies to they're already paying for the service. We need them to not unsubscribe from us. So it
And
just needs to exist, and that
Exactly.
changes the game a lot.
and
Yeah,
that
I
was a
think Hollywood is like a restaurant where the menu hasn't changed in years, and I
Mhm.
think that's where you see the audience getting bored. But
And
one question I want to ask
mhm.
to you guys, I've been thinking about a lot lately, is do you think the audience of moviegoers has evolved over the past 10 or so years?
I think it's
I
evolved
wonder.
in I think it's evolved
Yeah,
in a very specific way where because we're in a very information heavy generation now. So like back in the 90s, you didn't have anywhere to look up like audience reactions or
right.
like
Mhm.
accuracy of like adaptations or of historical events. So you just had to walk in blindly and experience it for yourself. That's why the marketing for Roland Emmerich's films worked so well. Like the trails got you excited and you had to go see it. But now
Mhm.
there's just too much out there. So it feels like you've already gotten the experience without actually paying the ticket because it feels like you're
Mhm.
not going to get any more from there. So I think audiences are like starting to catch on that a little bit more.
Yeah.
And news can spread, opinions can spread.
Yep.
You know,
I
Yeah.
I
agree.
think I
People are
think a lot.
dissecting the movie before they even come out. Like they're taking apart just like the little like nuances. Even like with Aquaman, this last movie, they were just like even the words and like the type of things that they're saying, like, oh, we're facing economic, an eco issue, and they're looking up different things and different aspects. They're like, oh, is that real? Does that make sense? And like they just like before we used to go into a movie, we were just like living in imagination. where I think we're looking for, I think too much, we're dissecting it too much before we get there, and just not enjoying the experience of like
and
Yeah,
what the film is.
but there's
and I
something
think
else too. I'm sorry, Josh.
oh,
But also like I think one of the big problems with that too is the trailers because the trailers are supposed to showcase the best parts of the film to get people excited. And you look at a lot of trailers lately, you can just tell how the quality is going to be. So not much excitement is generated, nobody goes.
part of
Like,
it also I think is sorry.
oh no, no, I'm sorry, you go.
I was going to say another part of it, in addition, is the emphasis on cinematic universes. It's changed the goal of a moviegoer from how is this movie? Is this a good movie? Versus how does this film build into a bigger cinematic universe project? Like
Right.
like John Wick 4 just came out. I loved it. Great film, but a lot of the discourse behind it is it wasn't talking about the film itself, but also and maybe even more so will there be a John Wick 5? How will this tie into the Continental? There's Ballerina coming out. Where in Ballerina will that go in? And it's the same for like you mentioned Aquaman. I still haven't seen the new Aquaman yet, but first one I thought was okay. Second, and then this one, I mean, I don't mind just seeing it as a movie, but the discourse
Right.
behind it isn't how is it as a movie, but rather, oh, this is closing out the DCEU. Will this carry over into James Gunn DCEU? Well,
Yeah.
what cameos are going to be a part of it? Like the focus has gone away from just looking at the film as a film or even as a sequel and more into how does it paint a whole cinematic universe tapestry. And I think that just makes movie going a lot more exhausting.
Well, I actually want to build on what you said there, Josh, because I remember
Mm.
earlier in the year when I went to see Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, or as my
Mm-hmm.
friends calls it, Quantum Boringa. Like the I actually found it much more interesting hearing other people talk about how bad it was rather than the movie itself
Mm-hmm.
because the movie offered you nothing substantial.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, many people who have seen it and know that they're giving us shit in regards to entertainment, that has I found more compelling. So
Mm-hmm.
it just
Well,
feels more natural that way.
yeah, and like one film I actually did really like this year that isn't really getting a lot of attention was Blue Beetle. Because what I liked about it is, yeah, it was a bit derivative, of course, but there was no
It's cute. It's a cute movie.
it's a cute movie and I like but it was nice just watching fun kind of low key superhero film good guy fights bad guy and there's no extended universe nonsense there's no aggressive levels of exposition about random space shit that leads into another movie it just was its own film that can be enjoyed even if you've never seen a superhero film before or never read a Blue Beetle comic there are Easter eggs in it that if you've read the comics, you'll enjoy, but it's not like
Right.
shoved in your face where it kind of takes you out of it. And it was a refreshing sit. And it's what I really miss from blockbusters, where you can just enjoy the film as its own movie rather than connected to something bigger.
Yeah, the problem is we've been conditioned so much to it. We come in with that expectation.
Mm-hmm.
But great
And
point. If Blue Beetle does feel like a classic, like kind of like '90s like blockbuster in a way, where it's like standalone, classic, like you said, just bad guy versus good guy, not worrying about a connected universe. It felt like that. Which is
Mm-hmm.
interesting though, watching Blue Beetle because it was originally meant for streaming Max,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden they pushed it to go to theaters. But
Yeah.
still watching it, I felt uh I it's a streaming movie. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
and
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't seen Blue Beetle yet because that's actually
Same.
something else I wanted to bring up about the superhero genre, how it really feels depleted this year. Because I watched like a lot of the trailers for these new ones, and I, of course, going back to Ant-Man for a moment, it makes me ask the question, what does it even mean to be a hero anymore? It feels like
Mm-hmm.
we're not even guiding the cultural zeitgeist with this. It feels more like we're catching up. It's like
Yeah,
we gotta watch all the nonsense first before we can see any sort of heroic action.
I know.
I
And
mean,
this,
The only
unpopular opinion, I thought the Marvels was not that bad. I thought the
mm-hmm.
Marvels was like, I thought it had a lot of good stuff about it. I think people give Brie Larson a lot of hate. I'm not sure where it stems from. Well, I do know
Well,
where
we
it
think
stems
we know
from.
where it stems from.
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot
I do know
of
where it stems
the
from, but at
sexist
the same,
bullshit is still as powerful as ever.
it is. But
Yeah.
it's actually not that bad of a film. I think
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of mistakes made along the way in regards to like marketing. The trailers weren't great. I don't think it really showcased how good the film was along the lines of like Nia Acosta, like just speaking out negatively before the film came out and just saying it wasn't her film, she didn't get to finish it, which is like a whole other issue of like being in this machine and not having the creativity to do what they want.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you also notice, by the way, when it comes to directors who work within cinematic universes, like they have their big Marvel or DC movie, and then almost nobody cares about the movie, their new original movie that comes out afterwards?
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
I
kind
mean,
of sad,
I
isn't it?
I miss being excited for them. I still haven't seen Ant-Man, Ant-Man Quantumanium. I still haven't seen Marvels, and Marvels I actually did want to see because I really like Kamala Khan and I liked the Miss Marvel series, but
it's
it's
a good
just
film. You'll like it.
it's all felt like homework lately. Like the way, and part of it is
Yeah.
the marketing more than the film itself. It feels like it doesn't feel like, oh, watch this movie because there's all this fun stuff and creative energy in it. It feels like watch this movie so you'll be ready for the next movie, or watch this movie so
Right.
you'll be ready for the next series or next big pole film or
Well,
whatever.
Marvel has always been homework, and I think the problem is, but up until recently, the homework has been enjoyable. Whereas just
Mm-hmm.
like now, because it's not enjoyable, we're not taking the homework so well.
Yeah,
It's just like
like
we're
like I
before you. It was appointment television. It was like appointment like viewing. So, but like when it's been like we've had like a string of like maybe 5 or 6 bad movies, where it's just like not enjoyable. Now I just feel like, damn, I'm watching this so to avoid spoilers, or watching this to like know that for the next
mm-hmm.
film I'm like caught up on like everything. It's just like,
I mean,
Yeah.
to be fair, like OJ, the last Marvel movie I've seen was actually with you when we watched Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I think that was this year, right?
great
That
movie.
was
It was a
great.
great movie.
That
I'll
was
go.
great.
Actually, no,
Yeah.
I did not like that movie. I will
No.
say it's not, the thing is, it's not a bad movie. Like I don't think any of the Marvels or movies are bad now. It's just it's the same story over and over again. It's like we've kind of seen this plot told, this same story said, and it just feels kind of boring. Like okay, it's just different characters acting out the same play. Got it.
Yeah.
It's the only superhero movie I actually enjoyed this year was Into the Spider-Verse or
Yes.
whatever it's called.
Uh,
The
Across
second
the
one.
Spider-Verse, yeah.
Thank you, Across the Spider-Verse. That was great because that was a somewhat new and unique story that we haven't seen before. And I love that take. Is it entirely original? Not entirely, but is it playing into like something I haven't seen yet? Yes. But everything else I've seen Marvel's this year's Rolodex was just
when we
not
talk
it.
about auteur is like the just like the cinematic beauty that is that film, just like the creativity. Like I think it's gonna win the Oscar yet again,
Oh,
for best animation
Has to.
because
It
of
Yeah.
has to.
I
If
mean,
Wish
compared to
wins
everything
it,
else.
if Wish wins
beautiful.
it, I'm gonna actually lose my mind.
Yeah, I'm surprised a lot of people.
so hard.
I myself am
Oh,
surprised that a lot of people were surprised that Wish was bad. I'm like, did you see the trailer?
I wasn't surprised. I was just annoyed because like it's not just the fact that it's a Disney animated film and we know that Disney can do better because like
They haven't in a
Encanto was
while.
I mean Encanto was great. Turning Red was great, but like this is your 100th anniversary movie. Like your 100th anniversary of your animation studio. You
Their
had
age
that
is showing.
I know. And you also have that really great short, that Once Upon a Studio short. That was fantastic. That was wonderful because it was a whole celebration of everything they've made. And you give us Wish? And like you can tell it was rushed. Like if it had maybe another 2 or 3 drafts, it could have been a very interesting and great film.
Let's be honest,
Yeah.
probably 6 drafts, considering their
I wouldn't
quality.
even go. I wouldn't go that
let's
far.
go back further. It's like when was the last time Pixar made like a truly great, memorable movie?
So
Soul.
wait, when you say a truly great memorable movie, like there has to be other factors we're not
Classic.
mentioning here. Like
Sure,
so
like Soul. I would give Soul that. I wasn't the biggest fan of Soul, but it's still it's a good movie.
Oh
Like
yeah, I would give it to
I-
Soul
yeah.
or Inside Out.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Inside Out,
I would
Wall-E,
I would say
Ratatouille,
maybe like
classics.
sorry to interrupt you guys. So
Yep.
I guess what I'm understanding from you, Ethan, is like something that has like the same lasting power as like Toy Story or Finding Nemo. Something that like
You're right. Like iconic. Like I think we all agree Soul is great, but it's not really brought up anymore in discourse of like we love that.
yeah.
I think,
And now
I
they're
think
re-releasing it because they know that they're really straggling at the box office. They're like, oh, you didn't see Soul in theaters? Well, now you can.
I mean, my only criticism of Soul, and I think it's the reason it's not iconic, is that I actually do think it's a bit too adult to be a family film. And I don't
It was
mean adult.
depressing. I felt Soul was
Thank you.
depressing.
Like I
It
didn't,
was
and I mean, it was very heavy. It was very, the themes in it were very heavy. it wasn't, when I say adult, I don't mean inappropriate. I mean that, and I don't mean this as like a way of talking down to kids or saying kids are dumb. And because I
Right.
always respect how Pixar films would like challenge their audience, including kids. But I think that the themes in Soul are something that would resonate more with an adult than with a kid. And that's why it's not as iconic. And if I was going to go, I would say Inside Out. I would say is iconic. I would say Ratatouille, Wall-E, basically anything that's not franchise, and even franchise that's not Toy Story, and even Toy Story that's not Lightyear.
Mm.
Also, I want to point out with Soul, like you have a bunch of African American characters, which doesn't happen a lot in Pixar. And then
Mm-hmm.
like 10 minutes into the film, they're figures, and they're not. You
Yeah, well,
lose them as a person.
yeah, that's also
They're
a
like
trend. That's a trend with a lot of Black animated characters being turned into, like, whether you look at what was that? What was that Will Smith, Tom Holland spy film?
Oh, Spies in Disguise.
Yeah, Spies in
Spies in Disguise,
Disguise, Princess and the
or
Frog.
Princess and the Frog, yeah, which is
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to go all the way back, Bebe's Kids in 1992,
Yeah,
like
that was a
didn't have
good
that
one.
problem.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's because
No,
Baby's
yeah,
Kids is
didn't have that
genius.
problem.
Thank you, Tone Loc.
Yes. I love Baby Kids. All right, let's get into this guy before we rabble.
Yes.
Top five. It's like it was a struggle year. It was a struggle year. But Josh, I'm coming to you first.
Okay.
Top five. You don't have to give me particular order. But what was your top five of the year?
Okay. Well, first, before I give my full top five, I do want to shout out a bunch of films that
Some honorary mentions.
Honorary mentions. These are in my
Okay.
favorites because as much as this was a rough year mainstream wise, there were a lot of great films that I loved. How to Blow Up a Pipeline it was just absolutely intense. The directors previously did Cam, which I loved, and How to Blow Up a Pipeline was just, honestly, I had not been that like just tense in my seat for such a long time. Moon Garden was a wonderful stop motion horror film that I loved. The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster was a really fantastic debut film. That was a great one. Theater Camp was hilarious. Joyland was just emotionally powerful.
You like Theater Camp?
I did like Theater Camp. Now there is one scene in that film. There is one scene when there was this little kid that used Epiphany from Sweeney Todd as his like audition song. And when I was that kid's age, I used to regularly in my bedroom sing the Epiphany song, hoping I can learn how to sing by playing that song and then audition for high school theater. So when I saw that scene, I felt seen.
Okay.
So there was that one. Joyland was a fantastic, powerful one of those films where it's just pure empathy all around. And Zone of Interest was terrifying, and Rye Lane was cute. So those are my honorable mentions.
Zone of Interest, I definitely want to see at some point.
Okay, so I'll start with 5. Number 5, and this is to be a surprise for none of you that follow me on Instagram because I'm a big wrestling fan. Iron Claw.
Yes.
That is, oh my God. Like, this was a film that actually was able to get a few of my friends into wrestling because the way it showed, just like, I love pro wrestling. I love the culture behind it. I love stories of just the amount that these people sacrifice would just by pursuing their art. And also the Iron Claw showed that, as well as just a absolutely powerful family drama that kind of reminded me of like classic Hollywood melodramas, like A Place in the Sun, where you get into like Texas culture and like toxic masculinity and these really larger than life people that are being brought down just by life itself. It was just intense. And I am rooting for an Oscar for Zac Efron for this because he nailed it. He killed it. I mean, all the performances were fantastic.
I agree. I think he doesn't get the nomination.
He better get a nomination. My number 4 is going to be a bit of a polarizing one. It's been polarizing all year. Beau is Afraid.
Oh,
that was a really good one.
You want to talk originality? You want to talk? You want to talk non-IP, not just totally the most unmarketable film ever made that somehow was given this much budget and this much creative control. I loved Beau is Afraid so much. It was just pure anxiety in its most hilarious form. Oh my God. This was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, it was just, I've never weaved so much between being absolutely mortified to laughing my ass off so quickly. I actually did see it in IMAX at the Lincoln Square AMC IMAX, and that was one of my favorite theater going experiences of the year because everybody was just laughing hysterically at all of the parts where if you were questioning if it was funny. It was still a horrifying film too. Like, and maybe it was a little too long, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I would definitely see it again. Maybe not all at once, maybe in chunks, but I just, oh my God. And one of Joaquin Phoenix's best performances, 100%.
All right. I love that my top five is so different from yours so far.
My
What's number three?
number
OJ's
three.
noticing all the passion in that little review there.
Let me see. Number three is Poor Things. Poor Things is my number three.
Oh, okay. Those are my honorable mentions. Okay.
Yeah, and one of probably if Emma Stone doesn't win an Oscar for this, I'm gonna be upset because she threw herself. She should.
Absolutely.
I mean, if Margot Robbie wins, she deserves it too. But Emma Stone just threw herself, her whole body into her performance. And Bella Baxter should be considered like one of the 2020s iconic characters because her journey is so well told, so fascinating, so relatable. I loved it. It feels like the type of film that like if I was that like honestly, if a little kid who was a burgeoning like film nerd would sneak into their basement at night and catch this film on HBO or something, and it would just blow their mind. Like I look forward to like people who discover this film. And like the world building was astounding. The production design was incredible. The costume work was just beautiful. I love like there was one out like the whole thing is an adult fairy tale, and I love like the Snow White-esque outfit that Emma Stone wears in one scene. It is perfect. I loved it. I loved it so much. I saw it twice last year, and I don't regret it.
Oh, okay. All right. I love it. We've nothing the same on top three. All right, what's number coming in
number two is
number
Past
two?
Lives. Past Lives.
Past Lives.
That film is easily one of the best romance films I've ever seen. For as much as I loved Ironclaw for being a perfect melodrama, I love Past Lives for not being melodramatic at all. It is just pure empathy. It feels real. This feels like a real experience. And I think even the director said it was based on like some real experience by either her or her mom. I'm not sure. It just feels so much like a real life romance story that somebody's gone through, and there's no villains, there's no misunderstandings.
I felt like when I watched Past Lives, it was like when I watched Marriage Story. It just felt like a very like real like situation. I'm like, oh, that's like okay, like it just felt super real. Like these are like people I know.
What's wild is I remember actually reading that there was some pushback against Past Lives lately because I've read some people that were saying, how can you enjoy a film where everyone takes the high road? And I'm like, because the high road is hard to take sometimes. That's what makes it compelling. You could be making all of the correct decisions and it's still heartbreaking. And it's still hard. You could be doing exactly the right thing and it can still hurt. And what I love about the film is everybody understands. Everybody understands how hard this story is, and that there's no easy decision, and that even making the right one is tough. And that's what makes it such a beautiful story. I loved it. I love Past Lives.
I agree with you, Josh, and I felt that the film did a very good job at communicating all the heartbreak that came with those decisions. You know, it's not like anyone just takes the high road and just thinks nothing of it. You stay with them for like another minute.
Yeah, and like there's no real aggressive exposition. You're just left with the emotions. You just see the tears, you see the smiling, you see the laughing, and you just read it all without it needing to be spoon-fed to you. You're just kind of feel it, and that's what makes it so beautiful. So my number one is Bottoms.
My prediction was wrong.
Really?
My
Really?
number one was
Yeah.
Bottoms. I
Bottoms is
love
at the
that
top.
movie. Bottoms is at the top. It was hilarious. Okay, for as much as we talked about how bad this year was, it was a
Yeah.
great year for comedy. There was, and like normally with most years, comedy there just have not been a lot of great comedies. Bottoms was hysterical in a year of already great comedies. Like, oh my god, give me all of the Emma Siegelman, give me all of the Rachel Sennett. Like, I loved it. I loved it. Every line was funny. Every dialogue sequence was quotable. Marshawn Lynch killed it. It was just pure, unabashed, unashamed passion and madness and wrong. And that's what makes it right. Like when people
Okay.
talk about like comedy is too sensitive or you can't make fun of things anymore, Bottoms proved them all wrong. Bottoms is
Wow.
Bottoms is everything that comedy should be, that all of the assholes in the comedy world keep saying doesn't exist when it clearly does. It just involves people you don't like. It is funny. I saw it at New Fest last year with I think Emma Siegelman was actually introduced it, and that was my favorite theater going experience of the year, and I did watch it again at home, and I'm waiting for a Blu-ray release. Please make a Blu-ray release. I need to own this. It doesn't have one yet. It's annoying as
It
hell.
doesn't have a Blu-ray release?
It doesn't. No Blu-rays, no
not even
DVDs.
on Amazon?
No, the only thing on Amazon is you got to rent it.
Oh.
Amazon, you have my money already. Let it be on Blu-ray. Like,
okay,
Wow.
it's probably going to cost like
Okay.
$70, man. Are you sure you can front that?
I mean, I buy Vinegar Syndrome on the regular, so yeah.
Okay.
And I think like it was funny, but also it's nice to see like teenage characters actually act like teenagers and fuck up royally. Like, it doesn't endorse what these girls are doing because they're literally trying to hook up with the cheerleaders by starting a fight club. And they're in the wrong. The film knows they're in the wrong, but also it's like, yeah, they fucked up, and then they know they fucked up, and then they have to make it right. And I like that Bottoms just has this honesty about teenage life. I loved it. I loved it so much. This was a directorial statement in its purest form.
I did not see that coming, Josh. I did not.
No.
Me neither.
Oh wow. Okay. That's Josh's top 5.
Mhm.
I will go next just because I know my list is completely different from Josh. We have no
We have nothing
no
in common. Got it.
uh, but a lot of Josh's top 5 are my honorable mentions. Just because they were all great films. But coming at number 5 is Leave the World Behind. Talk about feeling seen. I felt very seen in the character Ruth, just her character, like being I love the film so much. I watched it Christmas Day with my family, and us being, I guess, upper middle class Black people, we felt very seen watching it. Just because of like how Julia Roberts' character treated uh Mahala, I forget her name, Mahala Harold, I believe. Um, but it was just very, we felt we've seen that before. We've been in those scenarios before where it's just like, oh, you own this house, and just like all that. And I thought it was a great film, especially if you add in all those like otherworldly elements. It reminded me of like Cloverfield and those kind of films that I all love. It's kind of like this otherworldly thing you can't see. It kind of remind me of M. Night Shyamalan's early stuff a little bit. Different aspects of that. So I love Leave the World Behind. I thought it was just a great film, just all around from Mahershala. I love anything Mahershala does for the most part.
Mhm.
He's just a great actor.
Yeah, he kills it in everything he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard not to like root for Mahershala. He just does it well. Hopefully,
Yeah.
which is why I think we're taking so long to get Blade, because he's like, it has to be right.
Well, I don't think that's on his accord. I think Marvel just can't keep their shit together right now.
But I'd rather
Well, yeah.
I'd rather take the time to get his Blade right, because if you fuck up
Exactly.
Mahershala Ali's Blade, then there's going to be hands.
Well, I'd rather they reformat the MCU and just make Blade a standalone movie for him. So
Sure,
that he
I'd be
doesn't
down
have to
for
deal
that
with all
too.
that multiverse shit.
Nah, but would I want to see him fight alongside Wesley Snipes? I would.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we'll get a Wesley Snipes cameo. I don't know about a
Blade No
full
Way Home.
Yeah, we could throw in the TV series Blade too.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we'll toss. Hey, if they can have like all of the Spider-Men in the Spider-Verse movies and in the Spider and like even in Homecoming, we can have a cameo from that Blade TV series from Spike, the channel that doesn't exist anymore.
I mean, outside of Spider-Verse, I think we're multiverse fatigue right now.
We are.
We really are. I think we're over it.
Mhm.
My number 4 is Gareth Edwards, the creator.
Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah.
It was such, I think, a beautiful, just like, oh, what a beautiful film. Just like
Mhm.
unique idea, like just like everything about it. Like John David Washington, another
Mhm.
amazing actor doing great work.
Mhm.
And Eva Gemma Chan, I haven't enjoyed her in a while. I thought it was just like a great film, just and it touched on so many little nuances about society, AI, what we're going through today. It felt like it was just a really strong. You know how oftentimes we see like movies these days and they're trying to like kind of like they're strong like Black Mirror episode. I feel like they took like the best like concept and this is like they actually made a great film. Like this felt like a great just science fiction movie. I
Mhm.
know a lot of people crap on the ending, but I just thought it ended in a great way. Like
Agreed. I thought it ended fine. Did you see
yeah, I
how
thought
it
it
was
ended fine.
made?
Yes, which is even more impressive to me, like based on like how it's made, because like I was just like it wasn't your typical like blockbuster type of shit, you know?
Yeah,
It
like
was
How was it made? I don't know how.
it was very skeleton crew. Like the budget was very small, and part of how it even got made was that Gareth Edwards just wanted to kind of dare himself and show that he could make a blockbuster on a very small budget. And most of the effects were practical. Most of it was shot on location. I mean, I can probably
which is
look
what
up.
we've been screaming for. We've been screaming for more practical
Exactly.
effects and
I'm just looking up the
less
Yeah.
budget. Let's look
Which
up the
less
is
budget real
like
quick.
these big green screen and like we're fixing in post kind of situation
Mhm.
and like CGI and a
Yeah, the
lot of it what you see is not CGI, which is amazing.
and the budget was 80 million, and it does not look like an $80 million film at
It
all.
looks like a
it,
$200 million film.
it looks like what $200 million budgets wish they look like.
True.
Like
Very true.
it looked better than I think most or any of like the blockbuster films that came out this year. And I think I mostly, for as much as like I did enjoy the film, I think I respect it more than I like it because I want more films to be made with that level of scrutiny.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
problem is it didn't make that much bank at the box office, so
It
it's
made a profit,
I mean, it made a profit, but like not as big where like everybody's like
right?
constantly talking about
Yeah.
it. It's to
no, it
push a
wasn't like
change.
a box office hit by any means, which is what we talked about today. Like, you know, not every great film does well at the box office.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll
But
see in time.
But they made it
it was
didn't
in
bomb.
time.
That's worth mentioning though. It is like yeah, not every good film makes is a box office hit, but I would say that a good thing to say about the creator is it didn't bomb. It did, and it didn't even break even. It made an actual profit, and I think that's
Right.
worth acknowledging. Like just because it didn't make all the money doesn't mean it didn't make money.
Yep.
So I think it's
I
a film like
agree.
that, like it reminds you of like District 9 in a sense, where it's like it's gonna have this like
Does
specific
yeah.
following, and they're just gonna
Yeah,
love that kind of sci-fi. Like I know, for example, I'm not that audience. I didn't like it that much, but I'm like, I know some people are just gonna love this and eat this up. Like I
it's gonna
also
have a
didn't, like I wasn't the biggest fan of District 9 either, but I did like that, and I thought it was interesting. And the same way with this movie, so
it's gonna
still a
make a
good
cult
win.
following. Yeah,
You need non-Marvel movies to exist. You do
Yeah.
need that.
Exactly. Um,
Otherwise,
number
this would be the
3.
otherwise this would be the Nocturnal Marvel Club and not the Nocturnal Movie Club.
That's what we used to call it, but
yeah. Then we had to talk about other films instead.
I know Kevin's gonna text me something angry now.
Tell Kevin we're not interested.
We
At least
are.
at least we're not interested anymore.
I know he's gonna be very upset.
We're interested. Just we're interested. Just vary it up. Just
the right price.
Just ease up on the crap.
Well, he found out James Gunn was texting me too, and I think he's been upset
James,
ever since.
call me.
I
We'll have a movie night.
James,
I
where's
know.
Peacemaker season 2?
Where's Peacemaker season 2? Also, I have Romeo and Juliet on Blu-ray.
Also, why are we getting Peacemaker season 2? We're restarting the universe. Like, how did John Cena survive?
I'm just accepting that his version of the Suicide Squad exists as its own thing, and thanking God that it's good.
Like,
And
why did
just,
Viola Davis survive? We're getting an Amanda Waller series. Anyway, that's another episode.
Yes.
Number 3, Saltburn.
I love it. Yeah, it's
It was
murder on
just
the
so
dance
fun.
floor.
I downloaded the song right afterwards. After watching that film, which I like watched like maybe 3 times. Um,
Okay.
it's just so polarizing. It's so much fun. It was just a lot of fun. I picked movies I had fun watching. Um,
As you
I
should.
thought Barry Keoghan, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. He plays this character so well because he's done this type of character so many times now, where he's just like the weird creep that does stalking and preys on a family. Um,
Mhm.
and he does it so well. And he just is now he's just now more adult and sexier and better to look at. So it's even more enjoyable now that you just put pretty people in it and he's terrorizing these beautiful people. And who doesn't love dysfunctional rich
Mhm.
people? Like we just love that as moviegoers to
One,
escape and be in their weird rich dysfunction. I think Emerald, I don't know why I just call her Edward. Emerald, I think is one of those, she's one of those filmmakers that I think is just she's just one of those. She's that girl. I think she's the it girl. In regards to like directing, I think Greta, watch out. I think Emerald's such a powerhouse. She has such a
mhm.
distinct style that I'm just loving so far. She's done no wrong in my book so far. So Saltburn is definitely number 3 for me.
One of my friends wants to do a Saltburn themed party, and I hope that becomes a trend of things that people do because Saltburn
Right.
is such a great party movie.
It is like just I've been watching the TikTok reactions of people like I love how families watch movies together during Christmas. And I've been watching all the like young girls putting on Saltburn as the Christmas movie and their
Saltburn, fun
family.
for the whole family.
Fun for the whole
Quote
family.
OJ Williams, Saltburn, the perfect Christmas family film.
It is,
Fun
and
for
then
the whole
watching.
family as long as you're over the age of 17.
Or like
No, they're
if you're like a teenager, just don't let people be around when you watch it. Discover, like find things in secret. Have your secrets.
right. And as it's when they're filming their families watch Saltburn and they're all like reacting very like you made a great film when you're evoking such strong reactions out of people. And then like just watching the families like no scream no he's fucking the dirt like it's
Is
just like it's
is it a
just like it's very enjoyable.
is it a problem if one of my thoughts watching the movie is, I kind of want that bathtub, like just that style of bathtub, like it's a nice
That's exactly
bathtub.
what she wanted. That's what she wanted. She's so stylistic,
Mm-hmm.
which is exactly, and I think Margot's a producer on this as well.
I think so, yeah.
Um,
Oh, sweet, nice.
Because I
She's
think
like,
she also produced Promising Young Woman, didn't she?
yeah,
I believe so.
I think
Yeah,
she did. She's becoming quite the producer too. Like she's definitely got her eye, like a great eye for projects.
Hmm.
exactly. So yeah, Saltburn is just deliciously fun. I think it's one of those films we're going to be talking about for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Coming in at number 4, The Holdovers. We already discussed it. Um, it's one of my new favorite Christmas movies. It's one of those movies that we were talking about, like, oh, before we started the podcast, like, what kind of movies is it just fun for you to watch when it's snowing and it's cold outside? And Holdovers is that type of film. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it just remind me of like classic, like very like Wes Anderson style, almost in a way, of just like your classic like film of just like 90s, and it gave me nostalgia in a way I didn't know. And half the time I was watching the film, I forgot that we were in a certain time period too, just
Mm-hmm.
because you didn't like it's not like in your face about like
Yeah,
which I enjoyed as well. Oftentimes when we've seen like movies depicted in a certain time period, it's just like they're emphasizing it so much that it's just like, okay, I get it. We're in the
yeah.
70s, and
Like
I
the
love that
70s.
also.
Yeah, the 70s in the film felt like the 70s that this film would have been made in, not like a cartoon caricature.
Yeah, if it was made in the 70s, we
Exactly.
would be talking about it to this day. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's the kind of transcendence it has.
Mm-hmm. Just
So I
pure
enjoyed
empathy.
that. And I thought the Divine Joy, who's amazing, I think she's gonna get the Best Supporting Actress
Yes.
Yes.
Oscar at least. I think she's gonna win. Um, and then I think Dominic Sessa, great discovery. Never heard of him before.
This was his
Because
debut.
yeah, I think he
Yeah.
got discovered for this one.
And I think he got
Yeah.
discovered at one of the schools they shot the film for. Like they filmed it at different college campuses to kind of give it a certain personality, and because there are only a certain amount of college campuses that still have like a 70s aesthetic to it. And he
Right.
was discovered just at a casting call at one of the campuses. And that's a great one. Like he's gonna have one interesting career.
Yeah, like I'm
Yeah.
actually curious to see where he goes next.
Though it'd be kind of awesome though if it was his only film, because he was just like, yeah, you know, I acted one time and it was like for an absolutely fantastic film and it was like a strong performance that everyone talks about, and now I'm just a successful dentist.
Oh man, no, I would love to see less nepos in Hollywood. So hopefully his career works out. Hopefully,
Yeah, I hope so. I do hope that he does more films because he was fantastic in it.
Yeah, he was
His feet and
fantastic.
teeth.
He handled the comedic beats and the dramatic beats very well.
Yeah,
Um,
and not to mention that he's working alongside these top grade actors, and
Oh,
he's
yeah.
actually able to steal the scenes sometimes.
Is it fair to call this Paul Giamatti's best performance? Because he has a lot of great performances.
It's a tough call because
Fair.
you're,
it's
as
his
you
best
said, he does have a
performance
lot of good
since
ones.
Sideways, for sure. I think it's his best performance since Sideways.
Also, Alexander Payne.
We love Alexander Payne. Alexander Payne can do no wrong. When Alexander Payne calls, you pick up.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like I watched Sideways. I haven't seen it in a long time. Maybe I should rewatch it when it's like late spring or something, and just compare it.
A
Yeah, why
great
not?
movie.
Yeah, just compare it. Like
That's
maybe
great
pair it
movie.
with a wine of some kind. Like I think of what
That
wine
should be a
goes
watch
best.
party for us. We should all just like get a bottle of wine and drink along with the movie.
Okay, time to put the rest of the podcast aside. Discuss what wine goes best with the movie Sideways.
Oh, a deep red. A
Nice.
strong red.
I don't know anything about wine.
Oh, he
I
was putting
thinking
you
of
on
a
the
red
spot.
too.
I don't know anything about wine. I was actually asking for advice because I like the idea, but I don't know what wine to get.
You can change his
Yeah.
podcast to a wine club and movie club.
I
Just drink
mostly like
Francis
whiskey.
Ford Coppola's wine and watch movies.
I'm a whiskey and bourbon and scotch drinker. I don't, that's most of what I know. I need to learn more about wine.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
no, I would say Sideways is definitely like a strong, girthy red wine.
yeah. It's because of Sideways. Every time I'm drinking wine, like I'm always letting it circulate first and giving
That's
it
how
a
you
whiff.
learn-
It's like
Same.
Yes.
That's how I learned that too.
And then coming in at number one, American Fiction.
Great.
This is my favorite film of the year. I love everyone in this movie. From Erica Alexander, which was amazing seeing her, to Issa Rae, to Tracy Ellis Ross. I mean, Jeffrey Wright is in his complete element, just like
Finally,
Yeah.
he can
killing it.
lead. He leads.
Right.
No more supporting. No more
And it's
like
glorious.
yeah, he leads.
He leads and he leads well. We've all known he's been a lead for a long time, and we've been waiting for this moment for him to shine. And I think
Mhm.
this film just does it perfectly for him. And then just like he's a great supporting cast. I forget their older woman's name, but the lady from
Leslie
Deadpool.
Uggams.
Yeah, Leslie Uggams. She's also great in this film too. He has a great female supporting cast. You have TV greats, just like it felt so great just seeing like we have these like different great TV era icons, just especially in within the African American community, just like from was Erica Alexander and her being living single, and then you had Tracee Ellis Ross and her being girlfriends, the next iteration of that, and you had Issa Rae from Insecure, which is the next iteration of that. It just felt like it hit a lot of points, and it was just so great to see. Like I love American Fiction so much, and it talks about society in a way that I think hasn't been talked about before, especially from an AA perspective.
Mhm.
I think it should be a film that everyone watches because it just further gives insight to different things and tropes that we deal with just as people. And so American Fiction is a must watch for me.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then I'm kicking it over to Ethan.
I wanted to go next too because I don't have a ton in common with either of you guys, but I just want to say I don't watch a ton of movies because I don't like movies anymore. But whenever I talk with you guys, it reminds me that like there are good movies. But my list is less so like I thought these were the best movies I've seen all year. To like these are the movies I enjoyed the most, and also these are the movies I could bring myself to watch. Because there's movies like so many different ones, like all the movies you guys name where I'm like, that's a good movie, probably. I should watch it. I worked a ton this week. Do I want to watch this in my like 2, 3 free hours I have tonight? Probably not. I want to see something stupid and fun, and I enjoy. So, like my honorable mentions, I want to call out The Bear. I really enjoyed that as a TV show. Season 2 of that show was pretty fun to watch. It was such a good guilty binge watch over a weekend. Wonderful. And then I want to call out because 2023 to me was not the year of movies. It was the year of video games. One of the strongest years. So many great games. Baldur's Gate 3 came out, which was wonderful. Breath of the Wild. I want to call out the weird and wacky Liza P because it's a game set in a dark, grim version of the world of Pinocchio. And somehow they turned this dark Pinocchio game where the concept of lying proves you're human, actually, and it gets your humanity going. They tell us a wonderful story about that and then build it into this whole fairy tale multiverse. And it's everything that I say I hate about modern Hollywood, where you have continuing storylines, multiverses, and all that other jazz, and a rather simplistic story we've seen before. And yet it was fun and sweet, and I liked it a lot to show that some stories work if you just tell it in a weird and unique way. Those are my honorable mentions. For my top five, let's see. I don't have a particular order, but I want to call it Mission Impossible. I really liked the latest Mission Impossible. It was a good movie, and I liked it simply because
Agree.
it was just like an early 2000s action movie. It wasn't like a modern action movie. Tom Cruise, I don't think he's seen a movie in the past 15 years, and that's great. I like that. It's like going back in time and watching a movie from him. Whenever I see something from him or James Cameron, clearly men living in the past. And you know what? Maybe I am too, because I miss some of those movies. It's glad to be able to get that again. And it was a good movie, put a lot of care into. I went to the premiere of that. I met everybody on that cast, and everyone seriously cared about every detail in that movie. And I just love seeing the passion.
You can tell. You can really tell when you watch it the amount of like attention to detail for the stunts, the blocking, especially for how they choreograph the action scenes. This was a movie that was like made with real effort. I mean, all movies are made with effort, but like I don't even want to imagine what was going on in their heads making this film.
Yeah, you know what the thing is with effort? It's like there's times like you can tell when people actually do care or they want to show you that they care. So
like
actions speak louder than words.
Exactly. Like the most telling thing to me is you guys have been to many red carpets. If the movie's going to start at 7, the big celebrities are going to show up at 6:30, 6:45, right? This movie started at 7. Everyone was there at 5 doing the rounds. They wanted to get everybody there. And I was like, it's so interesting. Why are you guys doing that? And they're like, oh, Tom was going to be here at 4:30. Making sure he met every single fan that showed up to meet him. And it's like, if Tom was going to put in all that effort for something that's not as important, he's gonna make sure we all do that. And it was like, okay, so and it's like, and they're like, and that translates to how we did this movie. We really cared, and you could see that. I love that.
Hey,
it's
OJ,
the old Hollywood magic.
Yeah, OJ, what time did Dwayne Johnson arrive for the Black Adam premiere? Do you remember?
He was the last one there.
Well, he needed to do his exercises. He needed to like, do his lifts, and maybe it was leg day.
15 reps of try to make it not look like garbage.
But I mean, to be fair, it was in the middle of Times Square. So once navigating a premiere in the middle of Times Square, and I was at the Mission Impossible premiere as well. It was, Tom is always that way because I've been to a few Mission Impossible premieres, and I've been to his other movies as well. I was at Top Gun as well, and Tom is just early all the time. It's just like this is the thing Tom does. So this is not out of the normal.
To the nines, he just over and top. Love it. Well, he's the last real movie star alive, probably, or one of. I think Denzel's
one of the few.
Well, he's the biggest of the ones that are left. It's like he's the only one whose like star name can actually bring people into the seats.
I mean, Jake,
I say him and Denzel. Yeah.
I mean, Jake, you never know. Maybe you'll get to see Tom Cruise, and you can get him to autograph a DVD of Endless Love.
You're insinuating that I actually own Endless Love. I
figured.
What's number 4?
For number 4, I want to call out John Wick 4.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Number 4. Okay.
It's John Wick to me.
Speaking of like
sorry,
effort, speaking of like
dude.
aggressive levels of effort.
It's like the most minute things too, where it's like when John Wick does that one, when he checks if the bullet's chambered with one hand in a pistol, and then guys at shooting ranges saying, "Yeah, before John Wick, no one did that," and then after watching it, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's called a tactical check." It's like, no, it isn't. They made that up because Keanu kept shooting guns so much, he just made up shit.
He can do
Like
that. He can get away with that.
it's so cool. And then I was playing Cyberpunk recently, a game which he stars in, and they added in his reload mechanics into that game from John Wick. It's
Nice.
a wonderful movie, and it's one of the best and most enjoyable action films I've seen in recent memory. That whole series counts 1, 2, 3, and 4. But just knowing that like these events take place over about 2 weeks or so, not even that much time, maybe a month. And noticing that
Right.
as John Wick goes through, he gets more and more tired. So me and my dad watched all three of them leading into the fourth one, and we noticed that in the beginning he was like feeling himself, he was spry and young. Then as 2 goes on, he gets tired. As 3 goes on, he gets more tired. And as 4 comes on, the sluggishness really creeps in. And that goes into
Mm-hmm.
his character. It's not about age or anything. It's about like, yeah, this dude has just not been sleeping and not been doing it. He's just been operating. And you
He
have the
needs a nap.
brilliant finish. Yeah. What a
Mm.
wonderful movie. Great movie going experiences. The best action stuff I've seen in I don't know how long.
That stair
Um,
stunt, that stair stunt that he does near
dude.
the end. I
Oh
remember when I
Yeah.
first saw the movie and he gets kicked down all of those stairs, and my
yes.
heart nearly left my body of
It's
just no.
It's so damn
it's
ridiculous, but like it's like does it even matter in this case?
It's
Yeah,
so
and he
beautiful
did
because
it.
it's so
He
Sisyphean, right? That's the John Wick story. It's to rise just to be
Right.
kicked down, to fall, but always getting back up, and that's how the movie ends as well. And
and
it's
he got help from his
beautiful.
friendly neighborhood Donnie Yen.
It's like that's what I'm saying. Look at the star power you're pulling in to get there too. Just amazing. Love it so much.
And
Like John
Scott.
Wick 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are films I'm going to revisit. I've seen the
Mhm.
first three at least 3 times each. I don't see why I'm not going to rewatch them all 4, 5, 6, 7 times.
And 4 showcase something that all action movie nerds knew, but didn't get the mainstream exposure, and that is that Scott Adkins is awesome and can act.
Yeah.
Because that performance was fantastic, and I want Scott Adkins to be in more mainstream things. It's annoying having to look through like direct to streaming stuff and whatever DVDs I can find in order to find him. Give this man a blockbuster of some kind where he's like a main character and not just like a heavy like in Doctor Strange.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Fully agree.
I forgot he was in Doctor Strange.
Yeah, everyone did.
I forgot until you just said that. I'm like, wait, he was in Doctor Strange?
Yeah, he was like one of the henchmen, as he does. He is your reliable
Um,
henchman. He's like,
He
yeah.
is your reliable henchman. And they gave him leading henchman this time, which is amazing.
mhm.
What's number three?
Coming in at number 3 for me, I want to call it the TV show Blue Eyed Samurai because I love it so, so much. It was, to me, one of the best. It's one of the best things I've seen on race in recent memory, and it's my favorite animated thing this year. I really loved Across the Spider-Verse, but I watched both of them within like a 2 week span of each other, and to me, this was just a much more unique, much more original story. It's not something I've
Sure.
ever seen before. It wasn't just about, and also showed perfectly this is how you write a female protagonist. Um,
Right.
because she's overpowered like every other female protagonist, but there's something to it where it's like this is believable, this makes sense. There's grit, there's drive, there's determination. This is a human being. This isn't a plot point. This
There's
isn't a
agency.
concept. Yes, it's agency. Exactly right. And it was an awesome show. I really hope season 2 doesn't flop, but I really like that. I'm like only one throwing in TV shows here, but I really enjoyed some of that stuff.
Mhm.
Number 2, I gotta give it to The Boy and the Heron, the new Miyazaki movie from Studio Ghibli. I really, really enjoyed it. It's the only movie I watched this year that after I saw it, I was like, you know what? I gotta watch it again. And I know if I watch it one more time, I'm gonna get a better understanding of it. And it's one of the movies that necessitates repeat watchings. I haven't seen a movie that I had to do that for recently, and it was a good one. It's up there with Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle for me for charm, storytelling, and style, and it's great. Another wonderful animated movie. And then finally, my favorite movie of the year was The Holdovers.
Hmm.
What an excellently shot movie. OJ, you kind of covered everything on it. Um, I think it's less so Wes Anderson. I think it's so much more so John Hughes. I think it's the Breakfast
Hmm.
Club for another
Mm,
generation.
Yeah.
Beautiful movie, is shot so meticulously well that it might be my favorite cinematography of the entire year. It looks so 70s. I honestly thought it could have been the 70s. My dad and I watched together with the rest of the family. My dad was just like, "What decade is this from? This looks like something I would have seen growing up." And I'm like, I mean, yeah, and I love it.
Yeah. Did you see
So
the making of like with the cinematography with the holdovers? Like
did
they
not.
they created their own special LUT to add on to the footage they shot. They shot it digitally, but this is like the
Yeah.
closest that I've seen it come to looking like film.
Hmm.
Exactly, because I was looking when I watched it, I'm like, wow, they shot this digital, but how did they get that coloring to be like
Yeah,
this? This
because
is it's amazing.
and that's good to know because as much as I love films like modern films that actually use film, film's expensive. Like there's no way around it. Shooting on film is expensive. So the fact that they were able
yeah,
to
it's
figure
no,
out
it's
how to
not
do it digitally,
economically friendly at all. Shooting
yeah.
as much as like we all love the film aesthetic, but it's just like it's gonna kill your budget. Like
Hmm. So it's cool knowing that they're able to figure out how to kind of get that look digitally in a way that doesn't look out of place.
100%.
Yeah.
But those are my top five for this year. Those are the favorite things I watched. And with that, Jake, do you want
nice.
to knock us out there?
Sure. I'll start off with my runners up. Like I actually had to like list all my favorite films of the year and like really go through like how I view them all. So I guess I'll start at the very bottom with the honorable mentions. This is gonna surprise a lot of you. The Adam Sandler animated lizard movie Leo.
I also like that a lot. I thought it was a charming little movie.
Yeah, because what you were saying, Josh, how this was a year for comedy. This movie gave me some of my biggest laughs this year. And in regards to animated movies for kids, I felt like this movie did a lot more for kids than I think a lot of Disney movies claim that they're doing these days. Like I felt like a lot of really good advice was being given to anybody who might be watching it, who might be dealing with social anxiety. So on
Right.
Netflix's and Adam Sandler's part, I thought that was actually very nice. It's
Good
not
to
a
know.
perfect movie, but like it, I think it deserves to be commended for that.
Yeah,
I
my
agree.
I haven't seen that one yet, but Adam Sandler did have a pretty good year because I saw that film that he made with
His
his
daughter.
daughter. The
Yeah.
and it was
You were
like
not
you're
invited to
so
my bar mitzvah.
yeah, and I actually really liked that one. Like Adam Sandler's more modern dad type characters, I find a lot more interesting and fun to watch than when he does the
Better
the
than Uncut
voices.
Gems.
Not that far, but I did love it. Not that far. Better than Hustle, the Hustle, that basketball movie.
Hustle was really
I
good.
haven't.
And I liked Hustle. I liked Hustle a lot.
Yeah.
Like he's definitely like I'm happy to know that Leo's good. No, what's it called again?
Um, Leo.
Leo. Okay,
Yeah.
so I got it
Yeah.
Leo.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm happy to know it's good. I haven't seen it. I don't know if I'm gonna see it, but it's good to know that it's like that Adam Sandler's on a good track right now.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's not
Absolutely.
perfect. Like it's a musical, and some of those songs are like not really that good. But there are some good songs in there. But it's not like Anna and the Apocalypse where all the songs are good. So you gotta get through some tedium with that. But there's some really good laughs in it, a lot of really good voice acting. So I think you're in for a good
No,
ride.
Adam and Netflix have a good thing going, and hopefully, like they just keep cracking out the hits.
Yeah.
But him and Netflix are seen they go together real bad.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
next on my honorable mentions is Beau is Afraid. Like I really love the tone of the film. I love how it like went from hilarious to anxiety inducing like within a fraction of a second and you don't feel it. My only problem was that it was a little too long for what it needed to be. I think during the theatrical play section it could have been shaved a little bit or maybe sped up a little bit more.
That's sort of the thing where it's like I definitely felt the length, but I also don't know what I would cut because it all just I get the arguments. I just don't know. I think it all
Which
just
is
comes
very
together for me
common for
so
a
well.
Joaquin Phoenix movie for it to go a little longer than it should. It's like a very common narrative with Joaquin Phoenix in his films. I'll just say.
That is true.
Yeah. Next I have three more honorable mentions before I get into my top five.
Mhm.
Next
Okay.
would be Asteroid City. Like
Loved Asteroid
Yep.
City.
yeah, I wouldn't say it's like his best film. Still think my favorite Wes Anderson film would probably be Fantastic Mr. Fox. But what I
Mhm.
really liked about this one was how it very slyly commented on the pandemic culture that we've had, and
Mhm.
also
Yeah.
our tendency to over obsess over something that is very minute.
Well,
Like when the
also,
alien appeared, like I remember I saw this with my mother and we were talking about what exactly did it mean. And I was like, he probably just came by to get his object back, but everyone treated it like it was an attack.
I mean, what I loved about it so much is it perfectly captured, I think, generational divide in that, like, yeah, after the alien came in, you had one whole part of the generations like, oh, we got to study this, we got to find this, we got to like explore what like the connotations are and what this can mean. And then you had another whole set that were older and they were like, we legitimately don't know what to do, have zero way to process this. And the fact that we don't have a way to process this makes us uncomfortable. And I think that's how a lot of people felt during COVID, where, just no one's experienced anything like this before and doesn't really know what to do. And you have one side wanting to figure out a solution, the other side just kind of uncomfortable with the lack of control.
Mm.
That's a good point. It definitely spoke on generational divide for sure.
Yeah. Second on my runner-ups is A Good Person with Florence Pugh and Morgan Freeman. Like
Oh, I forgot
Okay.
about that.
a lot of people
I
forgot
know.
about it, which
I
I
haven't-
thought
I
was
still haven't
pretty
seen it.
unfortunate because I felt as a filmmaker, this was like a growing point for Zach Braff. Because if you look at Garden State, it was about a guy who felt guilty over his mother's death because he was the one who paralyzed her in the first place, but then accepted at the end that it wasn't his fault. But in this one, what if the accident or the death was the person's fault, and it took them the whole movie to accept that? And Florence Pugh's an amazing actress.
She
Like
is.
I know like we tend to
Yeah.
like keep saying like everybody's like such an amazing actor, but she really killed it in this one. I really
Yeah.
felt a lot for her character, even
No,
though she
she
was at
did.
fault with what happened with Morgan Freeman's child. And it was so, by the way, it was just really cool to see Morgan Freeman in a big movie again like this. And he really knocked it out of the park. So I wouldn't say the movie's perfect either. I do think that there are some pacing issues. I think there were some aspects of the film that could have been taken out. But as it was, I thought it was a really underrated gem that I'm sad not many people are bringing up. Like I
Yeah, like
think
the
she
mark.
could have got a nomination for this year.
Yeah, the marketing just didn't do it for me. Like the trailers felt kind of schmaltzy, and Zach Braff like made that previous film, the film he did before that.
Going in
I just
style.
remember
I
not
think it was.
Going in style.
maybe. mm,
Did he
It
make a
It
was
was
movie
the one
before that?
after Garden. It was the one after Garden
yeah, it
State.
was the
Let me
one
see.
after Garden State.
Oh,
I just
Wish I Was
remember.
Here.
Yeah, that one didn't do it for me, and the trailer kind of made it feel like one of those overly sentimental indie dramas, and
Yeah, this one definitely feels a little bit more mature than Wish I Was
that's
Here
good.
did. So
Okay, that's good.
yeah. And last on my runners up would be Godzilla -1.
Yes,
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
like
the
good
good
film.
stuff.
Yeah.
I legitimately agree. It was the good stuff. I felt one of the problems I've been
But
having with
I'm pissed though
blockbusters.
because it was such a good movie, but it's not connected to the other
We
Godzilla.
don't need it to, and I liked
We
that.
don't need it to, but it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like I mean, how many blockbusters do we have right now where you could actually fully empathize with the characters you see, and not just the main character, but everybody else who's a
And
player in it?
how many monster movies can you name where you care just as much about the human stories as you do about the monster?
So true.
Yeah. Oh, and the monster looks freaking terrifying in this one. Like
Actually
just
scary.
sitting on top of the water, like his eyes, like they drew me in.
Yeah, so much rage. Like, dear God, this was a great, probably one of the best Godzilla films I've ever seen. Right up there with the
Absolutely.
original.
Yeah, I have to see all the
I
rest of the
agree.
other Godzilla films, but like I can immediately say that I love this one.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first Godzilla they did in this series they have with like Aaron Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen was a strong Godzilla entry, and I think this is the best one since then.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so with my best films of the year, at number 5 would be The Holdovers.
Nice.
As a lot of you guys have covered, like all the aspects of The Holdovers I wanted to mention, like the look of the film. I would actually argue it was a little bit John Hughes, but I also would say this film echoes the Bob Rafelson movies of the 70s, like with that
Ooh.
brisk, cold bleakness. But,
Yeah.
I can
but
see that.
definitely, like in terms of the character interactions, I would say that's more the John Hughes connection.
Good
But
pick.
I thought there was a lot of really good themes that were touched upon, especially when it comes to the generation divide and how they kind of come together. Not only generations, but backgrounds, how
Yeah.
everyone's sort of coming together in their own ways to sort of be together and empathize. By the
Yeah.
end, I just felt for all of them.
I mean, it felt like a movie where everybody needed to learn how to look at look at them beyond their background and beyond their status. Because even like when people go into class divide and like Eat the Rich is fun, I'm all for it because dear God, our country has problems. But this was a film that was about learning how to see a person just as a person, and everybody kind
Yeah.
of had to learn the exact same thing.
Which like is one of the reasons why I pick it as one of my favorites. I feel like I need to pick the movies that we need, and we need a story like this. We need to bring people back together again.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so number 4 would be Past Lives. I love the way the movie was shot. I love the interactions between all the characters. I thought the background of it was very interesting. Like on the second rewatch, I was still thinking about it. I still felt like there were some things I was missing, but it was stuff that I actually wanted to explore a little bit more. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, like how sometimes when you don't understand something, it can be very annoying watching a film. It didn't annoy me for this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, number 3 would be Poor Things. Like I
Okay.
thought that all the acting in that was great. I love the story. I mean, I would definitely say that Emma Stone deserves to win the Globe, the Oscar, like all the major awards, because this was a very demanding role, like
Yes.
physically and emotionally. And what I also really loved about her performance is that, you know, like how usually when people go through a transformation, you visibly have to see it. You don't see it in this. Like it
Subtle. It's
gradually
very
grows.
subtle. And then by the end of the movie, you do see like, oh, she is an entirely different person, and you totally get how she got there. It didn't feel like I feel like there's so many films when they show character progression, it's like, oh, this one moment happened, and suddenly they're completely different. But with this, you're right. It's more gradual. It's natural.
Yeah, and
I don't think people give enough credit to Mark Ruffalo either. I think,
oh,
Mark
he
Ruffalo
was
was
hilarious.
hilarious. Oh
yeah, I
my
think
god, seeing that asshole deteriorate was so satisfying.
Yeah.
he,
I do have to say I like Mark Ruffalo, but I didn't like the career turn he had. Like when he was like becoming more of the Hulk, I felt like they really limited him and his charm. Like they tried to make him like too sensitive in a lot of areas, but it was just like so
Yeah.
refreshing to see him in a role like
Well, he
this.
said that, I think, didn't I think he
Did he?
mentioned that he was afraid that he was starting to get typecast as like sensitive dad type characters ever
Mhm.
since the Marvel movies, and that this was like an opportunity to really like do something aggressively different.
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Well, I
this
thought
was aggressively
you could
different.
tell he
This
had
movie.
fun.
Mm-hmm.
You could
Yeah.
tell he was having a lot of fun doing it.
He was.
Something else I really liked about Poor Things too, because it holds your hand as it like gives you an alternate look at history on how we viewed and treated women.
Mm-hmm.
Like all through Emma Stone's character. Like we always like society tend to look at them like as simpletons, but the more experiences they were given, like you
The
know, they're
more
starting
that
to
they
find
the
a
more that
voice.
they the more society couldn't handle it, because it's like, oh, like Mark Ruffalo's whole deterioration of like, wait a minute, now you're not a naive innocent who I can navigate around and look awesome and or fuck. Now you have like personality and your own interests that are different from mine. How do I handle that? I don't handle that. I throw your book offshore. Oh God, wait, someone gave you another book. You're smarter than me now. Wait, you were able to get money on your own? How did you get your own money on your own? How dare you get money on your own through sex? Like
But
Mark Ruffalo is just perfect at just encapsulating that idiocy so well.
yeah, and you know what? This is what I loved about Poor Things. It didn't preach that message. Like through Mark Ruffalo's reactions, it was able to just say everything there.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, you could tell like last time Mark, I think was having this much fun was probably like I think maybe Ragnarok, where he wasn't.
even there, I felt that was kind of like a half fun, half machine producing Marvel performance.
Yeah,
That was
no, I
probably
mean
the worst
it's
adjective I
Marvel,
could
so
use
it's
to
still
describe
machine.
it.
Yeah, I mean it's Marvel, so it's been a machine behind it, but I haven't seen like him like enjoyable on a film since then.
Yeah. Oh,
Where
because
he's like really having fun.
yeah. All right. So number 2 on my list would be Oppenheimer. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like from a visual
Happy,
perspective, it was
Yep.
immaculate, like almost near perfect. And even outside of the visuals, I felt the film did everything in its power to be compelling all throughout. Like even in the scenes that are in the office are treated like action scenes.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And I just felt on all accounts the movie again, like all the movies I'm mentioning here are not perfect, but these are the ones that I felt succeeded the most in what they tried to do. And
Yeah.
Oppenheimer, I felt kept my interest. It was very intriguing. On the second watch, I loved it even more.
Mm-hmm. I think once you
Well, it's
got like
almost that second watch because I think that first watch you get so taken up of like, oh wait, there's this and that. Wait, there's Florence. I'm like, oh wait, okay. Oh wait, is that Rami Malek? Like, there's so many like I'm like star spotting like the first time I'm watching it.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
mean
oh shit,
the second
that's
watch
Safdie?
the second watch definitely made it like you kind of got the structure a little better the second watch where like the time jumps and the perspective jumps. The second watch kind of made that a little bit easier to access. And yeah, the star watching is fun. I love seeing Josh Peck be the one to blow up the bomb.
Oh yes, Peck is in it too. Like yeah,
Peck
there's
is
so many people in this movie.
everyone wanted to be in it. Kenneth Branagh being in it.
RDJ, like everyone's in this movie. Like you can forget Johnny Dennis. I'm like, oh shoot.
And it's
Yeah.
only going to get more relevant. Like now we're talking more about the implications of AI and deep fakes and like what they even said about how the founder of the Nobel Prize is the one who invented dynamite.
Yep.
And it was the same mistake of, oh, by discovering this horrible technology that can be used to destroy so many lives, people will know to use it responsibly and not use it. It never happens. And it just goes into the interesting ideas behind the difference between theoretical science and practical science.
Yeah. What was also cool with the way Christopher Nolan told that in Oppenheimer is that there were many different perspectives, but still managed to keep it on Oppenheimer himself while interjecting everybody else. So it really felt more than a complete story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And at number one, you guys
I
are
just want to
probably
say one more. I just want to say one more thing about Oppenheimer. That sex scene was hilariously bad, though.
in The
sorry.
Office.
Oh,
The part where
Florence?
she is like the part with like reading the Sanskrit off of her breasts. That was silly. That was very silly. Great movie, but I do remember laughing a lot when that scene happened, and I do remember the person next to me being like, "Stop! This is a serious moment," and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
I just thought like, oh, this is like nerdy sex. I'm like, this is like how like nerdy
This is.
sex
Are you like this
happens.
is how nerds have sex?
Through
Do you just
Hollywood
think all?
eyes.
Do you think this is how scientists have sex with each other? They do it by
I
like
did.
drawing like ancient languages and forums on their bodies.
I did. I thought
Don't,
like,
don't
oh,
forget don't forget the beakers and
Great.
test tubes.
Yeah, like, that's the foreplay.
yeah, I thought like, oh, this is just like nerd sex. So I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting.
And that
Nerd
and that
sex.
all and that scene where like Emily Blunt is imagining and wait, it's Florence Pugh also, right? Like Florence Pugh is
Yeah, that was the one I was
yeah.
mentioning in The Office.
Well, I was talking about that, but I was also about the more the scene and like during the party in the bedroom when they're all stripping. But that office scene also, Emily Blunt's a great actress. She could have just given that expression with her performance if that's what she was saying. We didn't need to see it. Oh my god.
But we did.
We did. And Nolan will like I love Oppenheimer. It's a fantastic film. It's one of Christopher Nolan's best. I will never be able to take those two sex scenes seriously.
Hmm.
I believe
That's
it.
a
I
fair
just
point.
thought that was nerd sex.
OJ was taking notes.
You know?
Like, oh, okay. This is how the nerds
Okay.
get down, y'all.
Yeah, you're just like, okay, how many people do you need to get paid to watch this and rent out an office?
Right. Still getting idea.
Yeah, take this note too. Like, write the Sanskrit, but be prepared to translate it to English.
Yeah, you have to actually translate it. And if you're inaccurate,
Accessibility.
Accessibility matters.
Oh my god. All right, Jake. What's number one?
Okay, number one, you guys are probably not going to guess. We have not mentioned it so far in this in any of our countdowns, so I'm excited that this is my number one. Anatomy of a Fall.
That's a fun one.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
I did really enjoy Anatomy of a Fall. That was a great film.
Yeah, same.
It was a great film. Like the fact that it was like a almost 2.5 hour movie and it kept my interest throughout the entire thing says a lot about its storytelling. And I love that by the end, you still, by the way, this is a spoiler for anybody who hasn't seen it. You still don't really have a clear picture of what happened, which I think the film was really good at keeping you an observer into this person's life. That the fact of the matter is, as they mention in a dinner scene, when you lose, you just lose. When you win, you're expecting an applause, but you don't have it because you got to deal with everybody knowing about your problems now.
Yeah, that's all of the press scenes were just
It's a great script. It's a great script.
It's
Yeah,
a great script, but I just felt so much anxiety that whole movie of just imagine being in a situation where you have to just have every single minute thing you've ever done, that's completely normal in your life, just picked apart and examined and having people know it. Like, I'm a very private person. Like, I mean, I don't post my personal life online really at all.
Right.
And dear God, I felt so much anxiety that whole time.
yeah. It's interesting you mentioned that too, like how like they could be just like little minute things that you would
Mhm.
just pass off like as oh that was just a one moment thing, like but it never happened again, but it gets treated like major evidence. And
Yeah, and
even
like
the
just normal
wife,
arguments, just arguments. Like everybody has arguments, everybody has disagreements, and it's like, oh, but you felt very aggressive during this one argument. Did you maybe think about wanting to divorce him? And it's just no, just we had a fight.
yeah, and that was her saying that too. Like
Mm-hmm.
and that's something I noticed like lately in a lot of major Hollywood movies. It always has to be like hero, like it has to be victim and abuser. Whereas in this
I
case,
don't.
it's just everybody caught in a really unfortunate accident.
Yeah, I mean, it
Well,
kind of reminded me of like Big Little Things and like sharp objects on like like it kind of reminded me of those like kind of series
mm-hmm.
where like we have like these very like adult problems that we're just not dealing with like in the correct way.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Like you could be doing this in just the wrong way and be in the wrong in the situation. That's part, but that's again, that's part of why I like Bottom so much. Like part of being human is fucking up royally and like dealing with the consequences of that. And but I think part of it is like, normal in like a traditional screenwriting structure, the little moments are meant to hint at something bigger because it's meant to be like
yeah.
a shorthand or a cue. That's just traditional writing. So it was cool that Anatomy of a Fall kind of like subverted that and played with those expectations.
Yeah. Also, I do have to give a shout out, like the lead actress in that, Sandra Hüller, I think her name is. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure if I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. She was phenomenal in
She was
that.
great.
Yeah,
I
I
still
didn't know
say
who
Emma
she
Stone
was
should
before
win,
this.
but I wouldn't be sad if she won too. But also the kid, the one that played the son.
Kid was great. The
Yeah,
kid was fantastic.
Yes,
there was a lot of
the cast. I didn't know any of the cast, but they're all fantastic.
yeah, but that was like one of the best kid performances I've seen all year, and that was a role that like demanded a lot out of him, like
Mm-hmm.
emotionally.
Hope
I
the kid's
agree.
okay.
Yeah, so yeah,
Um,
so many other
my
reasons, but
question to you,
that's my number one.
to you guys, what do you? Is there any particular film you guys are looking forward to in 2024? Like, is there anything you're looking forward to?
Ooh, good question.
Let me take a
Dune
look at my
2.
list.
Dune
Uh,
2?
Dune. Yeah, definitely Dune 2. That is like
Yes,
I have
I
been waiting
agree.
for that. I love it. I love the first one. I love the books. I am ready for Dune 2. Um what else?
um,
I'm totally with you on that. Like Denis Villeneuve, he kind of like I want to see what he does in the part two because his second halves of films are either like amazing or very polarizing. I
mhm.
cannot wait for that.
mm, yeah, I have to say I'm looking at the list of movies that I know are coming out in 2024. I would say Dune Part 2 is probably the one I'm most like anticipating, but everything else is like I'm kind of excited to see, but not really. Like cuz I'm
Well,
just worried
speaking of
about
Dune, I'm
how they're
also
going to be.
on the wall with Zendaya. Speaking of, I'm looking forward to the challengers.
Yes. Challengers three-way bi drama. Yes.
Mm,
Hype for it.
Yes,
Here for it. I am
I think
ready.
challengers. I think Zendaya is coming for that Oscar, and she's gonna get it. I think she wants
Um
that Oscar.
uh
I think she tried with Malcolm Marie, which was like not a bad
how do
loss for
Malcolm and Marie is a movie for acting nerds. It is a
right.
movie to basically that only exists to see two very talented actors act a storm. Like
It felt
that
like
is
watching a
I
play. It felt like I was watching a play.
yeah,
yeah.
actually I would argue it's not a movie for acting nerds. It's a movie for monologue nerds because if it was
Yeah,
acting like
Yeah,
they would have been interrupting each other. But
that's true.
as
Yeah,
it
that is
was, they were like very polite and letting each other spill their shit.
I can already see like all of the acting students that were watching this film and just taking notes of the monologues that they will use for their
Yeah,
auditions.
be very quiet while your opposing actor is monologuing.
And then be loud. Like loud acting equals better acting.
right. Like let's
Um,
scream at each other. That means powerful. So no, I think
emotion,
emotion. It was
acting talent. I had to get the calculon in there.
It's just like a long audition. But I think with Challenger, she's gonna step back into that award
Mhm.
contention talk, which is what she wants to be in after
Yeah.
winning 2 Emmys from Euphoria.
And a globe.
Amazing. And the Globe.
Yeah.
So I think I'm looking forward to Challengers. I think it's gonna
Um,
be I think it's gonna be a fun film.
Yeah.
The movie's coming out this year. I'm excited for Civil War, a movie produced
Civil
by
War.
Barack Obama, about what a civil war will look like in this day and age. If it's bad, it's still going to create a lot of discourse, especially in an election year. That'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I just hope that the scope for that movie like is as big as it suggests because
I
that
hope
would be
so
I
really
too.
mean,
cool to see.
I think it'll definitely be like a very middle of the road movie, like not that good. But I think the spectacle around it will be
I
interesting.
I
I still
just
want to watch it too.
I need to know how Texas and California become allies. That's what I need to know because I do. I mean, I'm excited to see it, but I remember wait, the California Texas alliance. How I need that movie. I need to know like
Right.
how that happened.
I mean, you got two massive states that are the two biggest economic powers of this country that also have primarily farmers. So
And
I
I
can see
guess
some of
that's
that.
true, but also very politically different.
Politically
Right.
different. You get both parties in one tiny country. Um,
Um,
it's
I'm
I
excited.
love that map blew up on social media, and that's what got me intrigued of what America in a civil war would look like. But that superpower can't be beat. California and Texas is too powerful.
Yeah.
Um, another movie like the Joker sequel's coming out this year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm ready
excited
for the
about that
trailer.
one.
Yeah,
It's, we still have yet to see like a full trailer, so we don't have an
Yeah.
idea, but just hearing the description of what the movie's going to be like, it's almost like it's not, we don't have a, I'm sorry, I'm like repeating myself, but we don't have a vision of it yet, but an idea of it, like, it's almost like you want to see how that is in fruition. Like, that to me is like where real interest is.
That's
I
how
mean,
I
I'm
feel
yeah.
slightly
about.
nervous. It was one of those movies I didn't want them to touch, like, because Joker is such a great film, and it
Mhm.
like, and like like we don't want them to touch Barbie. Like I felt that way about Joker. But I mean, like with anything, like if the idea is interesting enough, if the execution is great, and the concept is great, then like let's give it a try. This sounds super interesting. They're adding a musical element to it. They've hired Lady Gaga, who on paper it sounds like the perfect Harley Quinn. Um,
Mhm.
so I think it's gonna be solid.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
that
I'm
sort
excited. I
of.
mean,
Oh,
like
sorry.
I was gonna say, Joker is like a version of Taxi Driver, and you can't make a sequel to that. So I'm
Mhm.
pretty excited
Right.
about seeing this now.
Yeah.
But that's sort of that idea of like we don't have all the information yet, but just so many elements of it sound interesting. That's how I feel
Yeah.
And
about
listen,
Nosferatu, because
Mhm.
Robert Eggers is doing his own version, and I love his work. I love all of his films. So seeing him take on that classic is going to be very interesting because it has been remade. Like already been remade by Herzog, and that was really good.
Yeah, that
And
was a
there was
great
that
version.
and there was also the version with Willem Dafoe about the making of Nosferatu using a real vampire. So that one, so there's already like there's a precedent for it. I know there's a whole community. It's like, oh my god, it's a classic. You can't remake it. I'm like, it's been remade. Calm down.
no.
I
Plus,
trust that.
if Joaquin said yes, then I know it must be like I mean, although Joaquin said yes to a lot of weird things, but if Joaquin said yes, I'm sure it's going to be a good idea.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
actually something I want to bring up too, like because we were talking about typecasting, and I feel like we're depending on a lot of actors for certain roles. We think like, oh, it's weird, he's going to be cast, he's definitely going to say yes. It's like Hollywood needs to keep things interesting, so
Mhm.
actors really need to start training. Everyone needs to start like mastering different areas of their own respective, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Skills,
Yeah.
That's
because
where. Mhm.
and just because we need to shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, we need some more like we need more temple actors. We need some newer ones. Like
Yeah.
one movie that I'm excited about, the rescued film, The Bike Riders, because
Hey.
Austin Butler channeling the hell out of James Dean, and especially seeing that Austin Butler is going to be in the new Dune film also as an assassin. It
Along with
sounds
Florence
like
Pugh.
yeah, with Florence Pugh. Like
Yeah.
that, he seems like an actor that's trying to become like the classic leading man Hollywood actor, and I am interested. Like we do have like our new crop of actors where we're getting to the point where we're seeing, okay, this person's in, and I'm excited. I'm going to see it. Like I think this month, Book of Clarence comes out, and I am
Yes.
there because anything that like Keith Stanfield's name is on, I will just see because he's in it.
Even Death
And
Note.
Ooh,
Even Death Note.
hey, yes, he was great in Death Note. That movie as a whole was very mid, but but his version of L was fantastic.
Mm.
Like,
I'm still recovering from Death Note. I saw Death Note, and then it's so funny because Keith, I think I interviewed him for another film he did that week, and then they're like, "Oh, okay, 2 days later you have to interview Lakeith again for Death Note," and it was so strange. Like he like took his shoes and socks off and like
Yeah.
got in the chair of like and then like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh, he got into
and he
character.
yeah, he got into character. So like before I get into the room, the post is like so like he's like so he's just doing something different today. Um and he's kind of doing the interviews in character. Um so like just before you go in the room, and I'm like there's like a camera crew, right? Like there's like he's not just doing it in character for me to do this. Like there's like cameras on him, me, there's cameras everybody. So I'm like, okay. So like she's like, let me know if you can use it. Maybe you won't be able to use it. I'm just like, uh,
You could have messed with him by asking him characters that only the L from the manga would know, being like,
yeah.
"So, what's your favorite type of candy?" Also, so how did it feel to be chained up to light for all those months? Like, just
Like,
ask
I
him
should have.
questions. Ask him questions in the form of and you're like, "What? You said you wanted to be a character as L. You didn't say which one."
Right. I mean, I should have like, but had I like known the day before, or not like 2 minutes before I walked into the room that he's supposed to do like in character, I probably would have been like, did that. But like, thankfully I got to interview him again for what's that movie? What he did with Tessa Thompson.
Oh,
It's such a great.
Judas and the Black Messiah.
No, no, no. Sorry to bother you.
Sorry to
Oh,
bother you. Thankfully,
oh,
I got
right.
to
That,
interview
my
him.
bad.
that was
Sorry to
actually
bother
the
you.
Sorry to Bother You
Great
was the
film.
first film I ever saw at Sundance.
Really?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
My
it's such a
first
good
time
film.
ever going to Sundance, that was my very first movie. And I actually I have the Blu-ray and I still have my ticket from when I saw it at Sundance.
Nice.
And I do remember afterward, I because it was a midnight premiere and Tessa Thompson was there. And I did get to see her for like a little bit, but I could also tell that she was just exhausted because she must have been
Right.
doing like a ton of press. So I didn't ask for a picture because I wanted to be nice. And I just said, like, I love the movie. I loved your work, Sincere White People. Have a lovely evening. And I could see just the relief come on her face of like, thank God I don't have to take another picture with a person. And she just said, thank you. And she was just very nice and very sweet.
Nice.
Oh yeah, such a good film. I love
Mhm.
Sorry to Bother You.
Yeah, sorry to bother you. That's a
But
talk about risky movies that like you want films to have a lot more edge and a lot more energy to them. Sorry to bother you is definitely that. And speaking of TV, I'm a Virgo was also fantastic. There's more Boots
yeah,
Riley work.
also by Boots Riley, yeah, which is also great. I think stars Jerome. I forget his name. From he won the Emmy. Forget for When They See Us.
Mm,
But yeah, great film. It was great. I think it's on Amazon or Hulu.
Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon. Yeah.
There's one other film that's coming out. That's The People's Joker. Do you guys know about this one?
That sounds
Mm-mm.
familiar.
It was a parody. It's a parody film that premiered at TIFF, but immediately after it premiered, I think Warner Brothers filed a lawsuit against it for
Well, yeah,
copyright
Joker.
infringement. But then, like, they had to argue it in court because it was a parody film. It should have been covered under fair use, and it was a massive, legal battle. And I think People Joker ended up winning, and now it's starting to get its limited release and then a wide release
Whoa, that's a great
in
cast.
Oh yeah, it's
yeah.
coming out April 5th.
I
Wow.
am very excited for this because that had been a film like I do have a few friends that caught it at TIFF and said that it was absolutely fantastic, and I am ready to see it for myself. And I'm just happy that the filmmakers were able to get the film released. OJ, are you reading about it now?
I think we all are.
Oh,
I want to watch this.
Well, speaking of
yeah.
parody films, how about all the Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse movies we're going to be getting now?
Ooh, Mickey Mouse horror movie
Uh,
coming out now, like
there's
Blood Money.
Yeah.
Multiple.
Yeah.
I'm
Like
like
I do.
that. I
Though
actually
it's
found exciting, like how many just came out. You know?
though what's funny is that the director of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey said that they didn't want to make a Steamboat Willie horror film because, and I forgot why. I think it's because they were afraid that because you have to do the Mickey Mouse parody just right, otherwise you'll get
Right.
sued by Disney because it's only the Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse that had the copyright expire, not Mickey Mouse normal. So you
Yeah.
got to be
Right.
careful.
Yeah. So just no pupils, just an entire black eyes.
Mhm. Yeah, and
can't wait.
I know there's so many. There's one I forgot what the title is, but I think it's the same director that made a horror Grinch movie,
Oh, the
and it
mean
had
one.
the mean one, yeah, and it has the guy who plays Terrifier played the Grinch in that
Yeah.
one.
Oh. By the way,
Oh,
I'm
Art the
sorry.
Clown. The guy play Art the Clown. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you there, but I do have to say I'm actually kind of excited to see Terrifier 3 this year.
Of course, yeah, that's going to be awesome. That is going to be 1% awesome. A Terrifier Christmas. Yes, give me that.
Yeah.
Give me all of that.
I have a friend actually who like I was showing like a lot of Art the Clown scenes to and was like,
Mhm.
don't show them to me. They're really unpleasant. So when the trailer came out for Terrifier 3 and we were like hanging out watching Christmas movies, I'm like, I want to show you a trailer. It's gonna be for a new Christmas movie coming out. I hid the title of the YouTube video so she wouldn't know. And then when he picked up his head when the kid said Santa and Art the Clown came up, she's like, you asshole.
God, yeah,
Damn
that.
it,
Oh my
Jake.
God, those are. You see, Terrifier 1 is now Halloween staple. Terrifier 2 I do love, but it's a little too long for me to say that
little
it's something
too
I can
long.
watch every year. I know, right? Like that one is too long for me to say that it's going to be annual viewing, but the first one is definitely now in like the Halloween canon.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
now we got the Christmas one.
Yeah, I'm gonna see that in the theater. I am hyped.
And then we got it's the Easter Beagle, Art the Clown.
When are we gonna get? Well, we are gonna hopefully get a Thanksgiving sequel. I did like Thanksgiving. The Eli
Thanksgiving
Roth
was
film.
actually
I don't
really
know.
good.
Yeah,
It was good. I don't know if I want a sequel, but it was good.
Yeah,
it'd be fun.
you know what the thing is too? Like, I think one of the reasons I like Thanksgiving, and this is actually a criticism of a lot of movies in 2023, a lot of them act like they're trying to be more than what they are. Thanksgiving
Yeah.
knew exactly what it was, and it delivered on that.
Yeah.
And it gave me a
Mhm.
perfectly satisfying experience.
Yeah, and I
agree.
like. Yeah, it was just fun. It was light. It was fun. Crowd I went with was into it.
Yeah, and
It didn't
possibly
try
one of
to-
the best Black Friday scenes ever in a movie.
Definitely, even if that's satire, because I know like those Black Fridays have gone down, haven't been as aggressive as they used to be. I feel like that satire would have hit
People
a little
aren't
harder
dying anymore.
anymore. Like if that film was made maybe 3 years ago, I think the satire would have hit a little harder.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm
Yeah.
still glad that they did that too. Like, I'm always
Like, yeah,
down to see
I
carnage
think
like that.
pre-COVID it would have.
Fair.
Yeah, pre-COVID would have hit harder. I'm excited. Also, speaking of horror, while we're on it, Smile 2. I'm also excited.
Oh, they're doing a
for
sequel?
Megan 2.
You're doing a
Yeah.
sequel.
And for
Yeah.
Megan 2 as well. I think Megan was like a great we talk about creating like these moments for like people like pop culture and like bringing people to the theater. I think Megan definitely had that.
So is it going to be M6 skin? They can stylize the
Maybe.
six.
No, Megan squared.
Megan
Mm.
Square.
That's how they're gonna do it. I bet they're gonna do it like that. It's gonna be Megan, but there's gonna be like a little squared number 2 on like the top right. That's how it's gonna look.
I mean, if they can make the font look really interesting, I'm all for that.
And then the third one will just be called Megan.
Megan
with the
cubed.
3.
Three, yeah, okay.
No, they'll just use the 3. They'll use the 3 for Megan and just say it's called Megan, except they'll emphasize the 3, like underline it or something.
It's funny.
Most of
Oh
the
my
films
God.
that I'm excited for next year are like festival films that came out this like in 2023 that I just didn't see or miss for whatever reason.
yeah.
There's one
Okay.
that I'm very excited for. It's a historic film with Mads Mikkelsen. It's called The Promised Land, but in the what country is it from again? It's a Danish film. So in the original Danish, it's called Bastarden. So it's called The Bastards.
Oh.
And it's about like this guy who's he's basically trying to create a farm on this land named the King, and it's just not working out, and they're both basically doing an aggressive power play on each other. I just love Matt Mickelson. I want to see a movie that's called The
Same.
Bastards, so that's the only reason I'm seeing that. There's another film called The Monk and the Gun that looked really interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, you know that one?
I've heard of this. I have, and it looks interesting as right. I gotta pull it up to remember what it's about.
Yeah, it's from the director who made a yak in the Lunana, a yak in the classroom.
Oh yeah.
And I love that film. And this film just sounds very interesting, where it's like this community that that basically gets democracy for the first time, but it leads to more conflict because it's just a government system that the people aren't used to. And then all of a sudden, like because people are getting more heightened, guns are starting to get into play, and this is a community that's not even used to having guns. So
Yeah.
that just sounds very interesting to me. And I think I don't remember when it comes out exactly, but I
It was
am
in
looking.
February.
February? Sweet.
Yeah, I looked it up too because yeah, like when you get like this is like a real new story, right? Like this is interesting. Like stuff like this really gets me going.
Hmm.
And last film that I'm going to say that I'm really excited for, that's I used to know about, it's called Robot Dreams. It's an animated film. It just looks really cute. It's about a dog that's really lonely, so he bets a robot, and they become friends.
Oh.
And it's from Pablo Berger. He made this absolutely fantastic silent film called Blancanieves, which is basically a retelling of Snow White as a 1920s silent film regarding bullfighting.
Interesting.
Oh.
And I love that movie, so that's why I want to see this film.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we've been trashing IP this whole podcast, but we can't forget we have Furiosa coming out, which I
I
think
am excited for Furiosa. The trailer has me a
Yeah.
little bit nervous.
I'm
Yeah,
cautiously
same.
optimistic on that one.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
And then Deadpool 3. I think it's still set
Again,
well.
cautiously optimistic.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I trust George Miller. I do trust Ryan Reynolds with Deadpool stuff. Like I think I think they'll be good. I don't want to write them off too quickly, because especially George Miller, because I
Right.
did really love 3000 Years of Longing, and I know that one was a bit divisive, but I love that one. So
I
if
think George Miller is an amazing director, so
Mhm.
I have high faith in him.
Oh, he is. I think one of the things audiences are learning this year is to not get too hyped over certain things because we have these unrealistic expectations. So,
except
I mean, when
for
it comes to
Dune.
Ryan, this is his first time having the shackles of like the MCU rules on him. Plus, it's a new director that I think he did
the Free Guy.
a Free Guy with him. Yeah.
That's why I'm cautiously
Um,
optimistic. That was a very mid movie.
Yeah.
Except
I liked Free Guy. I thought Free Guy had great
it
elements.
was okay. Free
Um,
Guy, like it was one of those films where it made me feel like it just wants to shove its IP in my face. Like
Yeah.
I
'Cause-
just got exhausted by it. I got annoyed by it after a while. The premise was interesting, but I think it would have worked better as like a short film.
Yeah, because when they got the director of Deadpool 2, it made sense because he's an action director. But what kind of director is Sean Levy? He's just a director for hire. Like, I don't mean to rag on him, but that's what he is.
I think it's going to be a Ryan Reynolds MCU film more than Sean
a
Levy.
Sean Levy film.
As long
Yeah,
as they
and that's
play
what you
their
need,
cards
too.
right with this one. One more movie I want to mention that I'm kind of excited for, but this is just on a personal stance: Hundreds of Beavers.
I've not heard of this. This sounds cool though.
It's
Hundreds of
really
Beavers.
cool. Like it's a black and white movie. Like it's just a guy who's trying to fight a whole army of beavers. Like it's the same guy in a beaver costume but multiplied. It's basically like a live action Looney Tunes cartoon.
Into it, down. I want to see it.
Yeah, same.
Say it's like when you're out with the boys and you're just like, would you rather fight like 5 fifth graders or like 100 first graders or something stupid like that? Something that makes no sense. It's like, would you rather fight like a lion or 100 beavers? And then one guy's like, yeah, 100 beavers for sure. And this movie was made.
Yeah, definitely. 100 Beavers.
It'll be the cocaine bear of the year.
Please let it be a little bit more interesting than Cocaine Bear.
I enjoyed it for what it was.
Me too, but like
Cocaine Bear is fun.
I find myself, if I was ever to revisit it, like I'm always just watching the ambulance scene. Like other than that, I couldn't care less about the rest.
I just keep
Yeah.
thinking that Margot Martindale should have lasted longer in the film
Mhm.
because Margot Martindale is amazing and deserves all of the roles in every movie.
How about that? Like have her be like a park ranger trying to protect her park, and she has to go up against the cocaine bear. That would have
That
actually
would have
made
been a
for
better movie.
better
Yeah, I
plot.
would have wanted that. Yeah.
I would have accepted that plot, but Cocaine Bear is still a fun movie. I'll
Yeah.
say.
I remember last year we were hyping up the release of it, especially you,
Yeah.
Josh.
Yeah, and it could have been more, but I still enjoyed it. I saw it in the theater in Dolby for some reason, and I did have fun. That's all I can really say. It could have been
Yep.
more. I think part of what made it work for me was O'Shea Edwards being awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But the action was fun. Margot Martindale was fun. It definitely could have been more. I liked the violence. Like I
Yeah.
thought all the kill scenes were actually very well done.
The bathroom scene, though, that fight scene was pretty awful.
Yeah, that one was bad.
Yeah. So I guess that's my message to 2024 in cinema. If it was a person, like be more than what you are. Like give us
Yeah.
a reason to go to the movies again.
And that's why I want to
Listen,
see the
Hollywood.
Garfield movie. The
No,
Garfield movie is where I'm at.
Lasagna
No.
City,
Pratt.
here we come.
no.
Jake,
Unironically, I do
Okay.
want to watch that, but
Okay,
Chris Pratt's dominated every animated voice for some. I have no idea what
Chris
reason,
Pratt-
but it's funny.
I know
Chris Pratt is why I still haven't seen the Mario Brothers movie yet. Like
it's not good.
You're not
I've
missing.
not
It's
like
it's mid. It's whatever, dude. It's like
Why did it make $1 billion? I've been avoiding it as well.
yeah.
it's a kid movie, right?
Like-
That's why.
The only thing, like, I don't know a single person that's watched that film and has taken anything away from it outside of Jack Black being awesome, and we already know that. Like, I love Jack Black. I'll watch,
We are getting 2023. We are getting Kung Fu Panda 4.
and
I am
that'll probably be
cautiously
great.
Optimistic about that one too.
That'll probably be
Yeah.
great. Like all the other
Yeah.
3 Kung Fu Panda films have been really good, and while I don't think we need a sequel, I'm always down to check it out because Jack Black is just awesome in general. But I'm not excited for Garfield. Maybe and this whole Smash Brothers cinematic universe that might come out of Super Mario Brothers. The only movies in that I'd want to see is just a standalone Metroid, standalone Zelda, and standalone Star Fox. I don't need.
I think we're getting all those. We're getting Zelda first. I think.
Yeah,
I think
well-
Zelda. I'm not optimistic about. I forgot what director they got, but that guy is not good. I never.
And
he
that's
didn't
what's
have a
unfortunate,
good
'cause
record.
What's the director?
I got to look up what he did recently, but like I'll get back to you on this. in a second.
Imagine if Dennis Lowry made a Zelda movie,
I could see that.
Really?
and it would be like Green Knight. It had the same tone, but it was Zelda. That would be
I did
awesome.
not like Green Light.
Yeah.
I did not like Green Light.
Going
sorry.
back to Kung Fu Panda 4 for a moment, just gotta keep in mind why I'm cautiously optimistic. The director is Mike Mitchell, the guy who did Shrek Forever After, which was pretty mid. And
Crap.
Yeah,
and on the live action side, Deuce Bigelow, Male Gigolo.
Crap. Crap on crap on crap on crap.
So again, that's and also I'm wondering like the trailers didn't really grab me like because usually I'm hooked by the trailer with the Kung Fu Panda, but this one was just like these are jokes I've seen before.
Let's just hope that Jack Black is able to exert enough creative control to like keep it good. Because I know that those films were a team effort, but he was also a big part of giving that character depth and respect. So hopefully we get that in the 4th, but
Yeah.
who knows? I am excited for Inside Out 2.
I'm cautious
Same.
about that one too, just because like I like that anxieties and emotion in this, but I worry if this is just Disney chasing trends instead of making their own story, you know?
I get that, and my only other critique is when they announced all the other emotions that are going to be coming in, they feel too similar to the original emotions. Like I think one of that, like even anxiety itself, it kind of can just be a mix with fear and disgust, and they could have just done more with them. It did feel like when they were adding on those extra emotions, it felt more like they were tacking on characters rather than exploring the characters we already have.
Yeah. And
Right.
honestly,
In that
I'm
case,
worried
give
that this
us-
is going
give us a
to
whole new casting.
I'm worried that this is going to turn out to be like the Finding Dory of the Inside Out movies.
I
where,
like
the
Finding
scope-
Dory,
The
though.
scope's not even going to be that big, you know?
I like Finding
that
Dory
was a
though.
movie, honestly. It was fine, but I literally forgot that was a movie.
Yeah,
So
but
yeah.
but
Finding
that's what I
Dory,
mean. Like it
pretty
didn't leave much of an impact compared to Finding Nemo. That's what I'm worried about Inside Out too, because
I
I
mean,
felt like
finding
this has potential.
I would say Finding Dory has more going on and more like artistic reasons to exist, because I think that even the way that it approaches like ADHD and memory loss, like that was very well done. I would say my biggest concern is it would wind up more like Lightyear or Monsters University, where there's just
Ooh,
Yeah,
zero reason for it to exist.
yeah.
I
I,
didn't mind Lightyear as bad as people I know crap on it. I didn't mind Lightyear.
yeah,
I just
going back to
Fine.
Finding Dory and like how they tackle like certain things like that, like ADHD and what's the word I'm looking for?
memory loss.
Yes. Um, I felt that that was done much more subtly in Finding Nemo. I felt like Finding Dory gave it a megaphone, and that's what I'm worried about Pixar. I felt like
Mm,
Pixar and Disney itself, they're announcing these things way too much instead of letting it be a natural part of the story.
Yeah,
Pixar's been struggling. They've been really struggling.
yeah. I
Just
Disney
like
mean,
is
a lot of the
struggling, to
a
be
lot of
honest.
Disney as a whole, Marvel's struggling, Pixar
well,
struggling,
this
Disney
isn't
Animation,
this the first year where
Star Wars.
Disney isn't this the first year where Disney wasn't the highest grossing studio of the year? Like it was Warner Brothers this time. Like
Mhm.
usually
Yeah.
it's Disney. So this is going to be a time for Disney to reevaluate itself creatively. And because it's funny, I'm my Julia and
Yeah, I think
I
it's the first year they
are
didn't have $1 billion movie. This is the
yeah.
first year they didn't have one.
I mean,
Like
to be
this,
honest, Hollywood is falling
dear
apart.
God.
Like, to be honest, like right now, the movie industry on a whole is like on a bad tear. Like some of the news you see is just not good. There's still great movies coming out though. Like you guys have brought up some great movies that I haven't seen. So I'll rag on the industry all the time, but there
Well,
are still things
here's
being made.
No, we
It's
still
just
have the beautiful H24 Neon.
well, but
They're
that's what we
doing
need to sort of
Lord's
be
work.
focusing on. How many more studios are just film studios, like not subsidiary of a tech company or a subsidiary of a theme park company or a
Right.
subsidiary of another company, just like this studio exists just to make movies. That is it. No other motives or cross promotions or synergies or whatever, except for when I did see Ben Mankiewicz introduce Tony Storm at AEW. That was awesome. Put more TCM in wrestling. Outside of that,
Classic Tony. I love
mm-hmm.
that character.
Yeah, timeless Tony Storm, love it.
Timeless Tony. I think about classic
Love
Tony,
it.
but timeless Tony.
But I will say like A24, Neon, what else? I'm sure there's other Bloomhouse, and I'm not
yeah.
even sure if Bloomhouse is a subsidiary of something. Bloomhouse. Um,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
think they're
Blue House,
Universal, aren't they?
yeah, and they do deals with
It might
everyone.
be.
Like, no,
yeah.
it's more production company versus like less studio.
Okay, so like we just need to like how many more filmmaking studio companies, production companies, whatever you want to call it, just exist just for the sake of making movies.
It comes back to like streaming did all of this, right? Because if you're a movie company, to be honest, at the end of the day, like this is what it is. If you're a movie company, you're going to trade at a certain multiple. So your
Mm-hmm.
shares, your company's going to be worth something based off that multiple. It could be like 5 or 6 times. If you say you're a tech company and you're a software company, you're not going to trade at 5 or 6. You're going to trade like 20 times, or you could at
Mm-hmm.
least 15 to 20. So your company just triples or quadruples in value by literally nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like just saying you're a different kind of company. So being a tech company switching over is just more valuable to these guys. And at the end of the day, streaming companies don't make money.
Yeah, that's what's
Not
so
a
messed
single
up
one
Yeah.
of them
about
makes
all
some kind of
this.
profit.
Hence
Yeah,
why a
like
lot of them are
that's
adapting commercials now.
yeah, and hence why
Yeah,
a lot of them are canceling shows so quickly because they're easier to fund as a tax write-off.
Hmm.
Dude,
yeah. I
honestly,
mean,
like
hell,
at this
I
point,
didn't know Tubi was owned by Fox.
That's not
everybody's owned
surprising.
by somebody. At the end of the day, they're all gonna consolidate once again, and there's gonna be three of them, 3 or 4 of them, and that'll be it.
And that is
It's just
why
a matter of time.
you got to
That
support
Hulu
the
Disney Plus
indies.
merger is coming soon.
Mm-hmm. That's why you got to support the indies. You got to support the foreign films. You got to support the like low level studios, because the only way they're going to actually turn in a profit, it's not going to be from streaming. It's going to be from ticket sales
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
home
So
releases. All
I
of
still think so.
this.
But tickets also need to be a little bit more affordable for people to go to repeat viewings
That's
because
true, and that's what's tough.
you know a lot of these films
Or
I'm
make or involve. I think we need to. I think people need to evolve the theater experience. I think AMC and Regal really need to step it up and like better evolve the theater experience for us. So like, if we're gonna spend all that money there, like make it, make it
$12 for
more
a
of
thing of popcorn.
Well, what's been interesting actually, because I did remember reading an article. I wish I could cite it. about the film, the theaters that were actually doing a solid job surviving. It was a struggle for like the AMC's and the Cinemarks, but indie theaters were doing okay because more of the profits are just reinvested into like
The
the
theater.
theater itself, and they didn't have to spend so much money on like IMAXs and Dolby's and like the recliner seats and amenities and all this other stuff. They were smaller, so the expenses weren't as high, so it was easier for them to survive on the ticket sales.
Yeah, I will. I would like to spotlight Cobble Hill Cinema, by the way. That's where I've been seeing a lot of my top films of the year at. Like, it's a nice,
Mhm.
small little theater in Cobble Hill, but it's a perfectly adequate theater watching experience. So
Yeah, I got
I would like to see more of that.
I have my memberships at the IFC Center, the Film Forum, Film at Lincoln Center. But I also love going to the Angelica. They have
Yeah.
a Village East, but also like the main Angelica, I think in Soho, that's really good. And the Quad Cinema is great. That's a really good one too. I caught a lot of good foreign films there. And they have a bar there that's really nice too.
Yes,
Very cool.
I
Awesome.
agree. I do need a bar.
Bar is
And
helpful.
and then we'll cap it there. Time to go get a drink, gentlemen.
Yes.
Um, we will see you guys next episode. Join us season 3 as we further geek out on our favorite films, and we'll see you then. Peace.
Thanks.
Take care,
Bye.
guys.